One. I love this game. I love this game.
Let's go, baby.
Hi guys. Hi guys. It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a Veve OMI update video with Foster Hilt. Foster, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm just gonna have everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi.
Hi, Dachi.
So there was a. I think the last time I did this, what, like 5 months? When was the last time we did this?
Oh
Doesn't
gosh,
seem.
it's you know what? It could have been yesterday or it could have been a year ago. Time is just such a what is time? Should we have a debate on the construct of time? No, I think it's been a few months since we've had one of these, and I feel like quite a few things have changed since the last time that we had a conversation. I think the sentiment in the community and just everything that we have going for us right now is very different. So I'm glad that we were able to put this together and talk about some of the exciting things that has happened recently. And I think a lot of people in the chat right now are obviously very excited as well. Everyone's vault values looking up. OMI's holding well against the rest of the market conditions, and yeah, feeling good, man.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about that. The All right, so we've been here before where everything's been pumping.
Yeah.
I didn't sell anything, and I don't know if you sold anything. At this time, I mean, I also kind of ran out of money before we hit bottom, so I wasn't buying the last month and a half, 2 months, because I ran out of money. Were you able to scoop anything up at the bottom?
I mean, not really, because I was in a very similar situation to you where I'd run out of money. And then by the time I still had money, OMI was at such a good price that I kind of wanted to focus on picking that up because, my VV portfolio has outperformed my OMI portfolio over time. It just seems like, to me, at least with where OMI was at, it was like that to me was the definitive bottom. Like I was fairly confident in that. Whereas with the collectibles, I felt like, at least up until recently, it was such a roll of the dice as to whether or not things could go lower or not. So, I picked up the occasional thing here and there, mostly the smaller things. I had a lot of the larger things already. So I was really just focusing on completing as many cheap sets as I could to try and go for MCP whenever that rolls out. So I'm sitting at about 99 sets right now. And I think I have 450 collectibles and then another 150 comics or something. So just really trying to make sure that I'm holding as much as I can coming into MCP, because I think as we start to see a lot of these collectibles gain utility, whether it be through actual utility with the collectibles themselves, being able to actually do something with them, or if it's just something as simple as, hey, you holding this collectible grants you XYZ privilege, with that rolling out hopefully in Q3, which, I mean, it starts next week, is fairly exciting. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And we talked about, did you sell anything? And I thought it was funny because I either sell things at the bottom. Usually when I sell things, it's a bottom signal. Like, oh, you sold it. Like, yeah, it's only going up from here. So if you see me selling, just know probably a good entry. But yeah, no, I haven't really been selling anything. I definitely will this time be a little bit more responsible about when I choose to let things go, because, as nice as it was to see a portfolio of $250,000, if you don't realize any of it, then it's not really worth anything. So definitely we'll probably take a little bit of profit on the way up, but really it's just a flip into OMI and then ride that out as well. I'm definitely not going anywhere. So.
Yeah, you mentioned OMI. Did you see Puddin Cheeks' interview yesterday with Superstar Money?
I haven't yet. I've seen a few people share it. I saw Asian Dan share it. I saw a few other people share it. And I really wanted to watch it earlier today before we came on so that we could discuss it. But for what I've seen, a lot of people were very excited about it. Puddin Cheeks, for those of you guys that don't know, does a community spreadsheet and talks about OMI burn and the amount of money that's being spent in the app. And he's a very, very smart cookie. So I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure if he said something and you had that smile on your face, I'm sure it was a positive thing. So if you want to give me the Coles Notes version, I'd love to hear what his thoughts are.
Yeah, so he's just dude is so humble. Dude is so like chill. He just thinks like, oh yeah, like he makes this like giant spreadsheet tracking all the gems and the law. It's like, oh, I'm not smart enough to put this on the left. It happened to go on the right. I was just like, okay, go ahead, Majik. But he teased OMI to gem again, as he's done in the past, and I've done a video on it. I think others have.
Yep.
So that's going to give OMI a good amount of utility. Not even just that. Obviously, we have OMI to NFT coming out. We do have that OMI to gem that has been teased yet again by someone that kind of knows what he's doing, even if he says differently. Um, I was wondering if there was any things that you might have an idea of that we're not 100% that nobody's mentioned yet. Like, okay, we know OMI to NFT and we know OMI to gem and eventually OMI to land. And you being the coin wizard, having thought of every single which way that we could burn OMI. Any other things that I'm not mentioning right now?
I mean, how much time do you have, right? I know you've done some long streams, but we could be here for quite a while on that one. No, you know what? It's really nice to start to see things come together. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sure similarly to you, when we heard that announcement in the most recent community AMA talking about cash out, and not just having the option to cash out in fiat, but having the option to cash out in crypto. This is something that I had never considered, never thought would even remotely be a possibility. I just assumed that you would, cash out into your fiat, and then you would have to, load it onto an exchange and do all that. But not only are we able to cash out in crypto, several cryptos, including both stable coins and some of the lead coins in the market, BTC and ETH, to name a few, they're not allowing cash out in OMI. And when that first happened, I was like, how is that such an oversight? Like, how do you drop the ball on that? But then I started to think about it. And this just goes to show that, like, you think that you know something, but then you really start to think about it and you go, oh God, they're so far ahead. Like, so if you cash out in OMI and then you want to do something with that money, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to sell your OMI because you can't take it out, right? It's in OMI. So now you're selling in OMI, and now it's not only is it a taxable event, but you're now putting sell pressure on the token. You're now selling your OMI, and it's putting sell pressure on the token, which we don't want. Obviously, we want as much buy pressure as possible, want the price to go up. We don't want people pushing the price down. So by not allowing people to cash out in OMI, but allowing them to cash out in a stablecoin such as USDT, which has a pairing on several exchanges with OMI, well, now you can go out and you can purchase the OMI token if you want it, but we're not worried about people selling that token inadvertently just because they're looking to liquidate funds. So I thought that was really smart. But then the one thing that we don't know now, looking into it, and with Puddin Cheeks and stuff kind of hinting on it on OMI to Gem, how would that functionality take place? So then you really start to think about all of the catalysts and things that can take place. Well, we know right now that you can add gems via the web platform via a credit card, which is great, depending on if you have a high spending limit or whatever the case may be. We don't have to worry about app store fees, which means that Veve is not taking a hit on the money that they're being brought into their platform, which also means that there is conceivably a possibility that they reduce the fees for withdrawal. So all these things really just start to come together. But then we start to think about, well, what if we can take our cryptocurrencies, whether it be BTC, ETH, USDT, or OMI as an example, and then we can convert it into the in-app currency or a stable coin within the app, which is a gem. Now, the reason that we would want to do that is the reason that we will never see OMI to NFT in the primary market is because OMI would then need to be sold by the team in order to pay off licensors, to pay their own staff, to pay licensing costs, which once again means sell pressure on the token. So how we avoid that is you take your OMI and you convert it into gems, which then means you're still pegged 1-to-1 because one gem is equal to $1. And then you can use that in both the primary and secondary market, but you don't need to worry about the volatility of holding OMI because one day OMI could be down or up 10, 20, 30%. And I think that it would be very difficult to work that into the marketplace. And originally I thought, well, we'll just see listings in gems and listing in OMI in the marketplace is what I originally thought. But it would cause, as great of an arbitrage opportunity as it would be if you're constantly in the markets, I think it would cause too much fluctuations and it would be very difficult. And I think a lot of people would end up complaining. The casual person who, listed something for $1 million OMI and then OMI goes down 30%. And they're like, well, no, I thought I was going to get, $1,000 and I'm only getting 700 now. No, I don't want that. So it's just really going to open up opportunities if they're able to allow OMI to be converted to gems, because then you can use it on the primary market. You can use it on the secondary market. It has that stability. And then once again, you can just turn around and cash it back out into a stable coin and then convert it back into OMI. So it's going to be a really interesting addition to the ecosystem. Now, of course, that portion of it is not confirmed. It's being teased and it may not roll out the way that I envision it rolling out. But either way, if we are able to get that utility on the platform, it'll be very exciting. And it'll just give people an extra reason to buy the OMI token. So
as far as cashing out and stuff, I hinted before. I don't say I've hinted. I don't know, but I've hypothesized before that Veve could become an exchange of sorts if it really wanted to. Like they could go in and be like, okay, you can cash out in these stable coins, and you can cash out maybe an OMI. And I think that a way where people would be incentivized to put OMI to gems is if saying, or OMI to whatever, say, if you have a certain amount staked, then you get 1% of the you get like a 1% discount on the fees. Or they don't even have to do that. They could just be like, hey guys, it's 10% to cash out normally, and out of that cash out of those fees, we're going to take 1% of that of the total transaction. Like, say if you withdraw $10,000 in whatever form, and it's a 10% fee. Okay, so that's $10,000 in that fee. If they take 1% of the whole transaction, then that's $1,000, or that's $100 that could be potentially burned. Because if they're not doing if they don't have to pay that 30% anymore, which is absolutely nuts, they're going to have a lot more money in the war chest to do kind of whatever they want. And also, this is we have what, 3 or 4 drops per week, maybe, give or take, depending on comics. I think a lot of the next couple of quarters are going to be 7 and 8 drops per week. We're going to have it teased probably at San Diego Comic-Con. We might have some before then. We've had it this week. We've had like five comics this week, right?
Yeah, 1 comic per day all week. And you're right. We already know that the direction that this is heading is in 6 months, a year, 2 years. We don't know the exact time frame, but you're going to see more than 1 drop a day, and in certain instances you're going to see more than 1 drop at the same time. So maybe you have a sports drop taking place at the same time as an anime drop, and you have to decide, well, which one am I going to prioritize? What's my fandom? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see all the drops, and that's really the reason that I'm so bullish on, obviously, the Veve app with all the collectibles that I own, but with the OMI token as a value proposition, because, I don't even look at the OMI price anymore. I don't really care that it's not pumping like the Veve collectibles are, because every single time someone buys a Veve collectible, in essence, it's removing tokens from the reserve, which granted is not the circulating supply, but with the utility as it begins to be added, with the staking, with the OMI to gem that will probably be coming, /OMI to NFT, just these different metrics in ways in which we can burn OMI directly from the circulating supply. We saw an AMA yesterday with Brock McBlockchain, with the Fiches project, which I'm now very excited about. I put out a tweet yesterday. I now own 10 Fiches. I'm very excited about that. So shout out to the Fiche fam. It's just one more avenue to be burning OMI. Several people in the community have also been creating games and things to burn OMI. Curtis has been making games, and there's a couple different ones that have come out. And so it's just so many different avenues in which we can burn OMI and remove it from circulation. So, as drops continue to pile up, they're going to continue to sell out, even if it doesn't happen immediately. And all of those drops will burn OMI, and we'll continue to onboard new users, which I think is probably one of the most exciting things that I've seen with everything that's happened recently. And I'm sure you can touch on again. And I know you touched on it on your stream yesterday, but a lot of interesting things are going to be happening with different individuals who may be financially well off, or even groups of individuals that are going to be looking to put considerable amounts of money on the platform, and not only invest in the OMI token, but invest in the Veve collectibles. And it's really just going to drive the whole ecosystem. And I mean, we've seen it. I think my vault last time I checked is up $31,000 on the day, which is just absolutely incredible. And I'm a little numb to it for the simple fact that we're still like 50% from the all-time high that I had previously, which, didn't sell anything. So going to be watching that closely as the prices continue to go up. But, I personally feel, and I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of the growth that we experienced in January was inorganic and was due to manipulation, allegations of illicit funds being on the platform. But even a few days of, $3, $5, and $8 million caused a lot of the collectibles to 2, if not 3x. And I think once we start to see those genuine funds come in, from individuals that understand the value proposition of them and have the disposable income to continue to hold through the volatility, I think we're going to see a lot of the collectibles continue to push up over the coming weeks and months, now that we have access to the web app, and it's a lot easier to onboard money onto the platform. And then, of course, you add in that OMI to gem that's being teased, and it just, it's hard not to be excited, honestly. It's hard not to be excited. And shout out Maxwell. Good to see you, man.
Same, agreed. Yeah, Maxwell, shout out for the super chat, Beer Money, and Yo Foster. So you're mentioning individuals that happen to be well off. I'll start with the people that maybe aren't necessarily well off. Whether you have hundreds of millions of dollars to invest or you have a couple $100 to invest, people in this bear market aren't really slowing down as far as their investing. They're maybe being a little bit more intelligent about where they're putting their money, which is very good for Veve. A lot of the people that I spoke to yesterday were absolutely over the moon. Like, wait, what? You guys do what? I was like, yeah, look us up. Look us up right now. Like, look up the real Randy Chavez. Like, do it. I was like Shia LaBeouf. I was like, just do it. And people getting in right now, they don't know what the prices were. I had told them like, hey, I left out what it was at the top, but I was like, listen, people were calling me crazy that like, hey, SpiderMan, the drop price that people would get it at the store was $400, and I paid $3,300 for it, and people were calling me crazy. But like and yesterday it was like $15,000 for SpiderMan, and that was like 42 or 37 now, I think. But
crazy.
So people that the one or two people that I know that downloaded it yesterday and whatever, if they looked at that price and like, oh my God, what just happened? People coming in now, this is new money. This is fresh blood. Like the only people that this recession, the only collectibles this recession will negatively affect are by the people that are in it already. People that aren't in it, you can't sell what you don't have. It's not like a stock that you can short it. This is something that they're first getting into, and they'll collect what they like.
Yep.
And that's what everyone does. And then after they collect what they like, they'll be like, oh, hey, this is interesting. Let's go for the Grails. Happens in Pokemon, baseball, Magic. Happened with Veve collectibles. I've seen it. I've seen it before. And yeah, the whales have whale friends, and they'll tell their friends like, hey, look what I got. Look what you can do. And there's only a finite amount. And like if there's like my friend Nick and Ryan were pretty good at basketball when they were younger, and they could have made the varsity team in high school, but they would have kind of rode the bench a lot. But they were also fantastic bowlers. And there's like, okay, I could be on the basketball team where I'm doing a lot of like work and I'm not really playing, or I could like go on the bowling team and be like a god. And that's what they did. So I think some people that maybe can't own 1% of Tesla would love to own 5% of Todd's or 5% of Walt's and just be like an absolute legend.
Yeah.
So when rich people are just people. So when you go and you get them drunk, you're like, oh, I want this, and they'll wake up and kind of regret it the next morning. But stuff like that can happen. So that's what about you?
You know what? It's funny that you say that because I think back to when Andre Jick picked up his SpiderMan. He picked it up, I think it was November, December of last year. And I remember being on the phone with him, helping him out because he didn't know what he was doing, but he knew he wanted to invest and he needed the help. And he was trying to add gems onto the platform. And his credit card ended up getting flagged by Apple because you can only add like X amount of money in a week before it's like, no. And I remember what the number was. It was like $8,000 or something. And like he couldn't add any more money. And we're sitting there and it got to like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And like the FOMO was hard. Like he was like, I need this now. Like it was to the point where like I had to buy gems on my account.
Oh yeah.
I spent like $3-4 grand and then sell him something so that he had the gems and then he could buy it and then he PayPal me the money back. You know what I mean? Like, but it just goes to show, like, I think back to that and I'm like how excited he was to go through that process. And like you said, the people that have the money that are looking to invest are people that have the money regardless. Like, yes, we're in a recession. People are losing money. But if you have $50 or $100 million, you're not like, oh no, gas is up 12% this month. Like you don't care because it doesn't affect your everyday life. You know what I mean? You've made responsible investments. You have your money, in XYZ place and you have the funds available to you. And you're just looking for good opportunities that make sense to continue to grow your wealth. So one of the major red flags for any whale getting involved in the project, and any whale that I've spoken to will tell you this, is, well, I'm really taking a leap of faith with my money here because I'm putting in, 7 figures, some people 8 figures even, and I don't have access to any of it. I can't cash any of it out. There's not, it's kind of a sketchy value proposition. So what eliminates that for people? And we're seeing it right now. Like the growth that happened in January was inorganic, but we didn't understand it at the time. We were living through it and we were just like, it makes sense. Vive's awesome. It's going to the moon. And so like everyone just kind of went with it, right? We were like, cool, this makes perfect sense to us at the time. But now we look back on it, we're like, yeah, this should have been a red flag. And like, oh yeah, this didn't really make sense. But we didn't know it at the time. But now we can look at it and say, well, there's some FOMO going on right now in the markets, but do the technicals and fundamentals line up with what we're seeing? So what is actually happening right now that's causing all this? Well, we received an announcement in the last 24 hours. Everyone now has access to the web app, which means everyone has access to putting money onto the platform using the web app, which I didn't realize, but shout out to Sam Ellis, another content creator who put out a tweet earlier today. He said, now everyone, regardless of what country you live in, can buy $1 of gems for $1 of your local currency. And you're not stuck going through the app stores and buying €1 or £1 worth of gems for $1, which ends up actually costing you like $1.50. So it was very interesting. So a little catalyst like that happened. And I'm like, oh, this kind of makes sense. And then we know people are getting whitelisted for KYC. Those emails are starting to go out. And we know what comes after KYC, MTL. So now it's like, oh, people are actually going to be able to cash out their money. It's not a rug pull. This is actually a thing. And then people go, you know what? Probably a good idea to invest some money now. And then they start to invest money. And then the floors go up. And then other people are like, I might want to delist this. I actually think this is going to go up more. So now there's less on the market and the floor is even higher. And then people go, okay, well, now I really need to buy one. And, we continue to see it. Will there be a correction? Definitely. It's not going to continue to go up forever. Nothing ever does. But we can actually look at this now objectively and say, there are reasons for why the prices are going up. And it doesn't matter what's happening in Bitcoin or in the stock market or anywhere at large, because once again, it only takes a few people that have net worths of 8 and 9 figures to go, hey, I'd like to allocate a couple percent of my portfolio into this. I think that this could be something. And that alone, based on the prices that we have right now, will sometimes double or triple a lot of the collectibles, or at least sweep the floors from a lot of them that we're going to see. Another thing that we're going to see too, which I think is going to be very interesting, is you talk about whales having whale friends. Well, Andre was making videos about Veve and Ecomi. He still very much loves the project. I talk to him about it almost on a daily basis. Same with Pro the Doge. But are either of them going to make videos about a project that you can't get your money out of? I mean, that's the first red flag for anyone. Like, what, people go and invest in it. They're like, why did you tell me to invest in this? I can't get my money out. Like, you can't really sell that to people if you don't fully understand the project and you haven't been in it from day one. It's not a good selling point. So once that clears up, they can start advertising to their audiences. Other people and other content creators that are likely holding off on making content about the project will also start to make content about the project, because it's now a full ecosystem that is transparent through and through that you can actually access in and out of, which is another huge catalyst. And then on top of that as well, whales talking to other whale friends. We saw Logan Paul on the podcast with True Geordie last week, and True Geordie made a comment about getting into Veve, which we won't make fun of him about too much, but Logan Paul called him about Veve and told him, hey, you should invest in this project. And True Geordie, who's clearly been keeping up with the project, because he said, they have Disney, they have this, and they have that, I'm down a lot on my investment right now. And Logan Paul kind of brushed it off. He was just kind of like, whatever. But it just goes to show you that whales will talk to other whales. And once they don't have an articulate argument against why they shouldn't be doing something, then they're going to do it. And all Veve is doing, and I've been putting out tweets about it, I call it checking the boxes. Any whale is just going to want to see those boxes checked. Do I own this item? Can I cash out the funds if I want access to them? Is this secure? Is it valuable? What is backing the project? And once we get answers to all of those, then it's game over at that point.
Yeah, no, agreed. I also think that at NFT NYC, which David wasn't at, he was just in New York for meetings, but happened to be at one of the parties. Jeremiah Aoyang posted a photo of them together. It says that, like, oh, trust me, KYC and MTL, it's coming. It really is coming this time. So I think that, we can, I can go to the Hamptons, you can talk to like the biggest YouTubers around, and I can go to NFT NYC and we can continue to make videos. Our reach only goes so far, and we can only reach so many whales. But David do be talking to all these executives, though. David do be talking to, like, he could probably get pretty much almost anyone in the world on the phone. But between like everyone's connections, you think that he doesn't have whales like waiting in the wings. That's like, hey, go, you're given the green light. So yeah, I do think some of this pump is from NFT NYC, you know, a lot of advertising, but a lot of it comes from David's announcement, saying like, hey, KYC here. Like, I think the Gale brought it up on this morning. They're like, everyone has access to the web app now, that beta. So I'm very curious to see what Apple and Google are going to do now that they're not getting hundreds of thousands of dollars on like a weekly basis, or you know, that's like millions of dollars a week that they're not accumulating now. So I think that if you remember in Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, after Padme Amidala goes into traps Viceroy Gunray, and she's like, now Viceroy, we will discuss a new treaty, because now the power is in Ecomi's hands. So like, yeah. I can't wait to see what that's going to be like. What do you think they're going to do with the additional funds? What you know, when they have so much more coming into the war chest, do you think they're going to get more IP? They get more devs? What's on your mind?
So I guess to give people, and it's a great question, to give people a little bit of perspective, I made a video about this maybe 2 months ago, so it's a little bit out of date now because more people have added funds into the app since then. But I think it was about $94 million in App Store fees or $64 million that Veve and Ecomi had spent on people just purchasing gems in the platform. So that was obviously a lot of money that they had given away that they could have used for access to things on the platform, you know, whether it be getting additional devs or whether it, you know, whatever. They could have used it for pretty much anything. So it's a lot of money. So to know that that extra money is now going to be flowing into the platform and is going to be on Veve's back end, the first thing that comes to mind is actual buybacks taking place. Now, buybacks in their traditional sense probably won't happen. If I had to guess on the balance of probabilities, could be classified as a security. And I don't know that they want to go down that road, but Reese Skellern, who's the communications manager for Ecomi, has already publicly come out and stated that even if they're not able to do buybacks as they were originally made, they will ensure to use those funds for an equivalent purpose to have the effect on the OMI token. So with that extra money that's coming in, I think that they'll have those funds to make sure that, hey, we have our bottom line covered, we have cash outs covered, we have enough money in the reserves where we can start focusing on ensuring that buybacks and other things are happening. I personally believe, I mean, they say it's regulation concerns and whatever. I personally think the main reason that they're not doing buybacks right now is they want to make sure that if there is, for whatever reason, an influx of cash outs that take place, they have enough money in their accounts that they can cover everyone's cash out. The last thing that you want to see is cash outs being denied or taking several months just because they don't have the funds to do it. That's the last thing that we want to see. So I think that once they're able to determine that they have that, I think that those funds will continue to start to be used on those. I also think to an extent, they'll probably start to be used to market the platform, which is something that we have not seen at all as of yet. And it's going to be very exciting to see as they start to market the platform because, you know, like you said, our reach only goes so far. And I've talked about this privately with a few people. You know, there's only so much that we can say in our videos that one tweet from Disney or Marvel doesn't cover 100-fold, right? Like my 6,500 subscribers don't have nearly as much reach as 9.9 million Disney followers. Like it's just not, it's just not comparable. So I think as they start to use that money for marketing, you'll start to see more people flow into the platform, which is good. They're investing in themselves to make sure that they're starting to grow the platform. And one of the main reasons that they haven't done that as of yet is because the platform wasn't ready. We weren't ready to have additional users onboarded. We didn't have cash out. We didn't have OMI to gem. We didn't have all of these features that we needed to have in place. But once we have all of those features in place, there really is no reason to not go hard on the marketing front and continue to grow the platform and get as many people onboarded as possible. So I do think that that's probably what those funds will be used for primarily. And then of course, just to invest in the platform, whether it be to secure more licenses as well from some of the bigger brands. If they still have a brand that they haven't secured that they're looking to go towards, they could use it towards that as well, or you know, focus on the metaverse, which we know is going to be coming eventually as well. They could be putting money into the Veveverse or partnering with other companies that are building their own metaverses. It's going to be very interesting. Dr. Profit has put out a couple tweets on social media talking about interoperability when it comes to metaverses and basically making the equivalent of every NFT being like a JPEG so that it's interoperable on every platform. Like JPEG is like a standardized image file type that's supported on all systems. You know, new technology is coming out every day. And if that technology comes out and is able to support NFTs on every platform as like a standardized cross section, then it'll be very interesting to see what happens with these NFTs. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned, our reach is nothing compared to Disney's 9 million reach on Twitter. But which that was correct. They do have 9 million on Twitter, and I think a lot of us get really caught up on Twitter because that's where most of us are. Some are in Discord, some are in Telegram. But if we take a look at like Instagram and look at all of Disney properties, if Disney really wanted to roll everything out, and they own National Geographic, they're like, hey, put out a post for us. And Nat Geo has 229 million followers on Instagram.
Ooh.
Yeah, dude, nature's so cool. Nature's amazing. And with that, it'd reach like millions of people. It'd reach, yeah. So people would be so curious about that stuff. I don't even know what Disney has on there.
Well, and like I feel like Disney owns everything, right? Like, doesn't Disney own Nat Geo, or they're affiliated with them somehow?
They could give them the
they could just No, it's going to be very interesting to see, and I think when we saw Marvel on board onto the platform in July, I think it was, of 2021, a lot of the content creators have been speculating about it because they had found some leaks and things like that, but I don't think anyone really believed it. And then once we got Marvel, and then once we got Disney, and now that we're seeing Disney's affiliations, Pixar and all these different things, and now we're starting to see partnerships with movie theaters such as AMC doing promos, and now that we have the promo code in the app and people are getting free NFTs, shout out to the Buzz Lightyear NFT holders if any of you were lucky enough to get one with the most recent promo that came out today. It's just really going to be interesting to see how they're able to branch into different areas, and starting to see Veve in theme parks, or starting to see them being advertised before Marvel or Disney movies, starting to see, like you said, partnerships with National Geographic. They could branch out, they could do education, there's just so many possibilities. And it's really interesting because I think that when people, and I saw it because you were posting about something earlier today, and 2 or 3 people commented on it, and they're like, Vivi's dead. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Stop shilling OMI, Randy. And it's just really interesting because I was going to comment on it, and I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. Like, if you can't see it after everything that's been presented to you, then you're just not going to make it. And that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. And, like, shout out to the 195 people that are watching right now, like, legends, each and every one of you. Like, you're here, like, you're making it with us. You're on this journey with Randy and I. And I just find it so interesting because I have a bet right now, and I've made it publicly with a whale in the community who has put up $5,000 and has basically said he does not believe that MTL is going to be here by the end of 2022. And to be clear, this bet was made after they announced that KYC and MTL, this was after the last AMA, where they were like, hey, we're rolling everything out in June, and most people will have access to it in June. Like, that just goes to show you that, like, you can have the evidence directly in front of your face. Everyone has access to the web app now. People are getting whitelisted for KYC, and the rollout is already going to be starting with MTL as soon as next week. But some people just still, they don't believe it no matter what you put in front of them. SpiderMan could go to 100K again. Walt could go to 50K again. They would call it a bubble. They would use some people you just can't convince of anything. So, I've really stopped talking to my IRL friends about the project a lot recently because I felt like I was coming across as like, hey, you need to do this. And I don't want to do that. I want to be like, hey, just so you know, this is happening, and you make your decision for yourself. And I have a buddy who is ready to deploy another 100 to 200K in capital towards the OMI token. He has collectibles as well, and he understands it. So I talked to him about it, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, here's what's happening. And he's like, I already know. I follow Randy. I know what's happening. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, you're telling me stuff now. But, if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. And that's totally okay. I'm just glad to see that overall, the general sentiment online that I've seen is a lot more positive. And I feel like people, for the most part, are either supporting one another or they're just kind of ignoring the trolls and just disregarding them. Because before, like March time, like, everyone was just butting heads and everyone was fighting, everyone was down, and it just wasn't the greatest energy. But I think now that, and credit to Veve for finally delivering on these things that they've been looking to deliver on, I think it's just a lot easier to hold your head high, wear your Veve merch in public, talk to people about it, and just feel good knowing that, you're invested in a company that, with everything else that's happening in the world, is just absolutely crushing it right now. So
Agreed 100%. Before I get to my little blurb, we got Kobe Collect saying, catalyst after catalyst, we almost get used to it, and this is somehow still just the beginning. Yeah, I love that how people are like, we could have like the greatest thing in the world. Like we could cure this major disease, and people are like, okay, so you're scientists. What's next? It's like, my God, man. Like give him a break. They're like
Yeah.
Boromir, like give him a moment for pity's sake. Like let them go and celebrate. But he's 100% right. And you were saying like about bubble. I've seen this before in Pokemon, where people that were into the cards and they get emotional about, oh well, the prices were this much like a month ago and now they're this much, and they're emotionally attached to what the prices were because they were used to it and they could afford it, and they get salty that they can't anymore. I have this one person, I won't shout out the name. It says everything is getting gobbled up by a handful of whales who are controlling the VV market. This isn't good, to be honest, and I personally don't see, even with mass adoption, people paying these prices. And I just get so PTSD triggered when going back to that, because people only see like what's in their little fishbowl, not
Mhm.
realizing that there's a big pond outside. And once they finally get there, let's say they get raised, they get a better job, whatever, and they're in that pond, they're like, oh, I've made it now, and now I can picture what's being spent, but they don't know about the stream that's down the road, and they don't know the lake that it goes into, or the ocean that eventually that can go into, and that people can spend so much money, and $1,600 for one Ritmo. Yeah, that seems insane. That's more than my rent. I pay $1,500 a month of rent, and people working paycheck to paycheck won't pay that. But there are people that would laugh at that. Like it's and I hate so yesterday at the Hamptons, like it was great, but it was almost like an offensive display of wealth, where like I almost cringed, where some of these servers were like, I wasn't done with the sushi yet, and like $800 worth of sushi was just thrown in the trash, and I'm like, no. But that just goes to show like what people think. They're like, when their car breaks down, it's not like, oh God, what am I gonna do? It's like, gotta get that fixed. So there's lots of people in the world, a lot more than we know, that have oodles amount of money and will pay whatever price just because they want it. So I get some PTSD about that. Um,
Let,
what
let
is
me. I
yeah
was just running the numbers quickly, and I just thought it was interesting because you're talking about being in a fishbowl and not seeing the pond. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of perspective, because people hear that and they'll still just say, "Yeah, but he's just talking." So I always like to support what you're saying with numbers, because I 100% agree with it. So Disney has 9 million followers on Twitter. Okay, so we'll just use the 9 million number. There are 4,300 Walt statues that are available right now on the VV app. Okay, officially licensed from Disney, whatever. If those 9 million people that follow Disney were aware of the fact that this existed, and presumably if you're a fan of Disney, you would want the statue that represents what started it all. One out of every 2,077 people would be able to access that statue,
and that's
because
just and that's
that's
just
one out of every two. So go to a hockey game, go to the Stanley Cup final. 9 people in that building could own that collectible, because that's what 2,000 times 9 is, right? So when you really put things in perspective, and that's just the people that follow Disney on Twitter, right? So and then you think about, well, yeah, but there's some people that like Disney that follow it that would want more than one, right? There's some people that would want 10 or 100, and they have enough they have enough disposable capital where it doesn't matter. And then you start to think about that, and then it's like, oh, and that's just the 9. And then you think about National Geographic, where you talk about 250 million people following it. Well, that's a subsidiary of Disney. So, and then you think about the fact that Disney has like 130 million subscribers that subscribe to Disney Plus every month. And then you start to realize, like, you're one person in a whole world of people. And then it's like, you know what? These things are pretty heckin' scarce. Like, you really think about it, and it's like, well, I don't know why 1,000 people would want this. You're assuming that all of them aren't going to be bought by one person,
uh,
right? Like, there's people out there that have enough money that just like David Yu has 3 warehouses worth of collectibles. Logan Paul is spending $400,000 on one first edition box of Pokemon cards. There are people out there that have money that just don't care. They want what they want and they'll pay for it. So you may not be that person. You may not understand it. And to be honest, I kind of fall in that category. I don't know why someone would pay $400,000 for a box of Pokemon cards.
Because it's
Randy, cool. But Randy fully understands it. And he goes, well, your loss is going to be my gain. And that's what it's all about, right? It's perspective. And you don't have to agree or disagree or whatever the case may be. But take some time to at least understand the perspective, because I've made that mistake of selling a collectible that I didn't understand why it would be worth anything, because nothing was really worth anything at that time. And then it went up $100,000. So I can tell you from firsthand experience that there are people out there that will do it, and it does happen. And that's just with the user base we have right now, with 8 to 10,000 core users, 30 to 60,000 active users a month. What happens when that number doubles? What happens when that number 10x's or 100x's? If Disney Plus can get 130 million active monthly subscribers paying for their service, and everyone shares their account with 2 or 3 people anyways, how is it that you don't think that Veve is going to have 5 to 10 to 20 to 50 million users in 5 to 10 years? Like, it just, I don't know. I've yet to have someone give me a rational explanation as to how that doesn't happen, how Web3 doesn't take over the world, how VR and AR doesn't become the future of where we're moving. If someone can, I'm all ears. And if you can convince me, I will sell my portfolio tomorrow. But you got to give me something, because people didn't think the internet was going to be a thing back in the 1990s either. And people didn't think email was going to replace physical mail. And people didn't understand the purpose of using cell phones. And all of those things now completely control our everyday lives. And I just don't see the biggest brands in the world with limited, scarce collectibles not being a part of that next evolution of where we're going.
Yeah, people were getting that like dragon popcorn bucket from Disney, spending hours in the blistering heat just to flip it for like $80. What do you think they're going to do for something that is going to do a lot more than $80? And Rob Sub says, half the people that subbed to Randy buy a Walt decide not to sell it. It is priceless. Compare that to all the Walt fans in the world. Crazy. Yeah, and that's just me and you, and not include like if there's people that are like Graham Stephan or Andre Jick or Logan Paul, be like, hey, I got this. They won't even say that I think y'all should get it. They're just say, I bought this. They're whole fans that just want to like do what they do. Like, oh, I'm going to do exactly what they do, because if I do what they do, I'll have what they have, and they're going to go and get it. They don't even have to try hard. But there's something I wanted to bring up that I was going to save for tonight's video, and I might do it in tonight's video anyway. From Jason Rindal, who's a sales and talent acquisition leader experienced in high growth technology over on LinkedIn, and he is interested in blockchain, NFTs, crypto, digital assets, and all that. He had gone and posted on Facebook this morning that there's going to be a couple of things that you're not going to see on the market, partly because it's popular, but also partly because big hedge funds are going to come in and they're going to be the store, which we've all fantasized about becoming the store ourselves, whether it be comic books or lightsabers. So that 413 common vaders, that granted this was this morning, so this might have changed. Average price of $250 would be $103,000. 422 uncommon vaders, average price of $200 would be $84,000, and 339 ultra rare vaders, average price of $3,000 would be $1 million. And he's saying that $1.2 million, and you could buy all the vaders, and you can become the store, and you could set the price. And any other person that sells below you, you could just buy it, and then you could just put it up there. And I think that that is also going to happen, but also the people that I was talking to yesterday that had companies that have hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, that's like, this might even be too small for them right now. Like, there's a lot of people that didn't get into Pokemon because it wasn't old enough yet. It's like, no, it's not old enough yet. I only invest in things that are like pre-World War II. And there are some people that won't even care about it, that was not interested in Pokemon at all. They just want the top of the top. They came in, they got a trophy card, they got a Charizard, and they left. So there's going to be some people in here that love collectibles, but don't necessarily love Disney, but they want the best of the best, and they're going to get that. So, yeah.
Well, and I mean, you talk about the amount of money that it would take to wipe a lot of these floors. And, you know, as a perfect example, I think it was Visa that bought a CryptoPunk for $500,000 a couple months ago or whatever that was. I don't want to get too much into Bored Apes and CryptoPunks and especially
Yeah.
Bored Apes with everything that's happening right now. But, companies will invest in these items because of the valuation that comes from them and the place that it gives them in Web3 and the recognition and everything like that. So, that was $500,000. And, in your example, you could buy over half of all of the ultra rare Darth Vaders with that amount of money, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of return is that going to give you over buying one Bored Ape or one CryptoPunk or whatever the case may be? So, I really think that licensed IP is not in its infancy, and therefore a lot of these corporations will recognize its value quickly. I think if you were in a boardroom, it would take a lot more to convince a CEO or a board of directors to invest in a Bored Ape or a CryptoPunk than it would to get them to invest in a partner statue that's officially licensed from Disney. I think that conversation goes over a lot easier. We're investing in officially licensed digital collectibles. It's the official IP that's backed by the IP provider, blah, 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 versus, hey, this 64-bit JPEG on the internet that has a lot of moon boys that are excited about it right now. Like, don't get me wrong, still super valuable right now, but I don't think that when it comes to institutional investing, it will be difficult to convince them to invest in these types of items. And when institutional investing comes in, like you said, they're not just going to buy one or two. They're coming in with $1 billion and they're going, yeah, we're going to deploy 3 to 5% of our fund's capital in order to invest in these items. That's $30 to $50 million. In your example, it would take 1.2 million to buy all the Vaders. So now you still have 29 to 49 million left. What are you buying next, right? So to say that everything is going to be valuable in the app, absolutely not. There will be tons of things that have already hit their all-time highs, will never see their all-time highs again, and will never be valuable. And that's perfectly okay. But there are certain things as well that will be inherently extremely valuable and will only continue to become more valuable because they're going to be the things that not only individuals who want them, but institutional investing will focus on. And it's going to be really interesting to watch those happen and be in the same league as, some of these collectibles. Like we look at Logan Paul with his Originals project, and he started a DAO. And if you own one of the originals, you get a say on everything that happens in that. We look at what happens in Veve already with the Holy Trinity group, with the Partners Club for anyone that owns a Walt statue. A Vader ultra rare Discord group or Telegram group was recently just created as well. A lot of these grails, you're going to see people start to come together. And as people come together and institutions become together, you're going to start to see like how Bored Apes would have like private parties and stuff in New York and whatever else. You're going to see a lot of these things happening as well. You're going to see parties at Andre Jick's house because you own a partner statue, or you own a Charizard, so Logan Paul has you at an event or something. Like you're going to see all these things happen. It's no different than owning oh my gosh, what's the name of his project? Gary V's
VeeFriends?
VeeFriends, thank you.
Yeah.
Owning a VeeFriend and being able to go to an event because you own it. It's going to be absolutely no different. And for a lot of these, it's not going to cost the IP holders really any money at all. It can be even community funded, or it can be used based on a percent of fees that Veve even generates as well from the platform from sales. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all comes together. And I'm very excited and trying not to sell, but also trying not to not sell. So it's a terrible battle of trying to figure out what to hold and what not to hold and what price to sell at. So
yeah. We're talking about big companies and big whatever, but there's people that can just do some damage just by themselves. Like I got a buddy of mine that is I don't know whether it was because that's what he did when he was younger with his grandma and grandpa or whatever, but happens to love the snow globes. And the snow globes has 25 of the secret rare. And wow. He's going, got 53 uncommon, a bunch of the rare, and 73 of the common, just because that just happens to be his thing. So there's going to be people that are going to get something just because, like, I feel like snow globes are an afterthought in people's head. They're just like, they don't really think about, that's not the first thing they think of, but it's important to some people. It's important to people that, are nostalgic for that brand. And, the biggest, I guess the biggest barrier to entry in most NFTs are solved with this very, very easily. And you have this mass adoption coming. what do you think is going to be a dark horse that people aren't really thinking of, like a Ritmo, or is it going to be like the supernatural fandom coming in and be like, I want Bigfoot, and suddenly Bigfoot goes to like $300?
You know what? Ritmo is really interesting. I bought a Ritmo. It ran up to like $1,500 or $1,600 like 4 months back. And for those of you that don't know what Ritmo is, it's the first ever animated, fully animated collectible on Veve. It was animated, I think, as a part of the season 1 finale. So it's got some history and lore to it. I completed it because it went down to like just under $400. And like I said, I was trying to complete some of the cheaper sets, and I think it's like a set of 9. So it had the benefit of having additional collectibles. It'll be good for MCP. But it's interesting. I saw it recently. It's like over $1,000 now. And so I'm not sure what's happening with that. I've always been very transparent about the fact that I'm not the collectible expert. So I'm not the person to ask about the thing that's going to kind of blow up. I just kind of focus on the things that I think are going to be inherently valuable, especially with comics. You know, shout out to Sleep in Comics and Comics and Crypto podcast. Those guys are great when it comes to talking about comics. And you know, I kind of defer to their judgment on what's going to be valuable with the comics. And then you know, the collectibles, I've kind of figured it out on my own over time about like, hey, should probably hold this one. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. You know, I haven't really looked at what's already taken a run up recently, because with 99 sets, like it's hard to kind of go through and look at all of them on what's going to be valuable. But what I would say is collectibles that have historically already had a run up that you can perceive value in, that have not ran up relative to everything else, might be something that people might want to look into. So like Wonder Woman FA, I think, was like close to 2K at one point. Same with the Joker, and haven't gone up that much. So I picked up a second one of each of those. Ultra Rare Steamboat Willie had a kind of an artificial pump because people were hoping it would get an FA tag, and then it didn't. But it's at like 1.2K. And it had a high of like 10, and it hasn't really run up with the rest of the market. So I own 2 of those. And if it gets up to like 8 or 9K, I'll probably sell one. Superman's starting to get a little bit of love again, but hasn't gone up as much as others relatively. But yeah, like in regards to a dark horse, I mean, I'm not sure. Do you have one other than Alligator Loki that you think would be good?
I don't know which one. I don't know why. I think it's going to be one of the Mermicornos or Unicornos. I think it's going to be one that has the one that's at 5,500 for the commons, not the ones that are 9,000.
Okay.
Like when I say like the supply, like one has like 9,000 supply for the commons, one is like 5,500.
Okay.
I think it'll be like the latter at 5,500. Just something that people are just going to troll with. That's something that's very cheap that no one would expect. The only reasons why I feel like this would happen is because I've seen stuff like this before with like 4chan and Reddit like going on and saying like, okay, we'll have Taylor Swift. She has a contest saying whatever school gets the most votes, she's going to perform at. So 4chan gets a hold of it, and they make it so that a school of the deaf gets the concert to hear Taylor Swift sing. And it's like, okay, there's going to be some, and there's some chaotic good people, you know, like Brock and Puddin' Cheeks that just do stuff like for fun and giveaways. But I want to see a chaotic bad person that just wants to see the world burn and just buy something just to burn it. Just be like, no, nobody's getting this again. Like they'll get like people like number 77 or like 123. Like I was gonna get it, I'm just gonna burn it just so like nobody gets it. I feel.
Didn't Dr. Prophet say that he was going to do that with a Grail at some point? I don't know that any of us knows which one.
I don't think it was a Grail. I
thought he said he was going to buy half the supply of something and then burn it. Or something. Yeah,
he said something. But I don't. I'm not. There's no way I'm going to find it on his Twitter. But
and I mean, he's probably up $4 million on the day or something crazy. So I think he's having a good day today. But
I think that. What he had, I think he said something. I don't think it was a Grail, because I don't want to say he can't afford it. I don't want to disrespect him like that.
Yeah,
like,
don't do him like that. Come on,
he can afford whatever he wants. But he said he already has it. He's got what he needs, and as soon as it's ready, boom, burn. So I'm pretty curious to see what it is. I don't know. Crazy. Buddy of mine said that I could try the guy that has the 70 or the 26 secret rare
The
Coca-Colas,
Coca-Colas, yeah.
and it's got like is going pretty hard at 118 sets and 1,200 collectibles. And
Wow.
this person is also in the one of my people that I advise that has a lot more OMI than I do, and will continuously buy some more.
Wow.
Well, yeah, might actually have double the OMI that I have going into next month by San Diego Comic-Con, which
That's
is
crazy.
which
You
is
know, I remember thinking like when I started last year, just seeing how much OMI you had. Because I think you at one point you were only like 50 million, and then you just went like super hard and like
yeah.
beast mode, Super Saiyan, all that stuff. So um I really like, as terrible as this sounds, like I would sell some grails pretty soon just so that I can have nearly as much OMI as you, even if it meant giving up the grails, because there's just something about being at a Randy level of OMI that just like, oh, it just hits different. Like I would love to get to 50 or 100 million OMI. I
Honestly,
just
you
think,
could do it. You'd have to sell most of your stuff, but you could do it. And I if I had just kept working one more year, I and would have done sold everything this year for it. I would have had like 400 million on me. Like it'd be so
wow.
stupid. Um, but I messed up. But I think that's good. Now other people can learn from my mistakes. And yeah, I think if you sold it, you could probably get as much, probably more than I have. And I think that would be, yeah, maybe short term these collectibles keep going up, but long term,
Yeah.
there's a reason why I only have 2 Grails, and there's a
Yeah.
reason why I sold the Secret Rare SpiderMan, Ultra Rare Spider, and the rest for OMI, because
Yeah.
I think that's my specialty. It's the ROI. So that is.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because OMI hit 0.0013 earlier today. Even given the current market conditions and sentiment, it's still doing pretty well compared to Bitcoin, ETH, and kind of everything else. So I thought it was interesting to see how it's going up, and it's quite exciting to see it holding its levels. For those of you that don't know, um, Surprise Cat, aka Hello K, and I have a bet against Cavell Anderson about OMI holding its 0.0010 support levels. So essentially not going down to 0.0009 at some point in the next month. Cavell's convinced that it will, and for fun we kind of just bet against him that it wouldn't, and then whoever wins gets to pick the loser's profile picture on social media. So that should be kind of fun. But I've actually been really impressed to see OMI. I mean, Bitcoin was at 28K and OMI was at like 0.0012, and Bitcoin went all the way down to 18K and OMI stayed at like 0.0011. So I mean, it's pretty incredible to see how insulated it's been from the rest of the market conditions, and so it's been pretty exciting to see it holding. So I'm looking to pick up as much OMI as I can at these prices while I can. So I think I'm up to about 19 million now. So definitely still a little bit of work to do to get up to your level, but we'll see what happens with the collectibles, and once they add the cash out, if the collectibles surprisingly pump even further, which I'll be honest, I didn't see coming. I thought we'd see more of a retracement than a push. If we see them pump a little bit more, I'll probably sell a couple of the duplicates of some of the grails that I have and look to at least double my OMI position, which I think, if even with Walt pumps to 22, 23K, I could probably sell it and then get another 10, 15 million OMI. So pretty excited to see that. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's kind of weird because this time last year I was hoping for anything for the OMI price to go up, and now I'm kind of like, I'm cool if it stays down, so I can load up more. So.
Yeah, I think this is just the beginning. I think this is really just from NFT NYC, and I think a lot of the whales that I met yesterday are waiting, doing their due diligence still, checking me out on the YouTube. Hi everyone, if you're watching, and I think that, I mean, you still have Comic-Con next month, which David mentioned is going to have a big announcement. I'm not sure what it is, but if you looked at Disney Plus News yesterday on Twitter, they posted that they are Marvel is returning to San Diego Comic-Con. They weren't there last year because of whatever reason, but they are back this year. So I wonder what you think that big surprise is. Was it? Do you think it's an announcement, like maybe, hey, we're going to get DC Comics because it's a Comic-Con convention. It's a comic convention, or do you think it's a new thing, like a new medium, or do you think it's going to be like a new thing like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? What's your idea?
So I haven't verified the post yet on Twitter, but I saw it circulating earlier that David Yu retweeted a tweet of a poll about DC Comics coming out, and apparently David Yu retweeted it. So I haven't verified that myself, so I'm not trying to like spread anything, but a couple screenshots, it looked legitimate. So if David Yu did retweet, it was okay, great. So I mean, if David Yu is retweeting a poll about, you know, DC Comics coming to the platform, I mean, he's not doing that by accident. So, you know, yeah. So if David Yu is retweeting it, I mean, that, you know, that could be something, definitely. So I could definitely see that coming. I also think that Disney, if I saw correctly, they're doing a Dragon Ball thing. Are they not? They're remaking Dragon Ball Z or something, or
I don't know.
It was
if
some
that was
anime.
True. I saw an article on that, but I don't know if it's from like a place that.
Yeah, and they anticipated it being like double the size of the MCU, and like it was like a 5-year plan and like whatever. So if that has any validity to it, it could be something that's very interesting to see. So I don't think it's bad news. Let's put it that way. I mean, with everything coming, I mean, you know, and I know some people will disagree with this, and you know, I think that I do sometimes have to balance being an eternal optimist with the project, with recognizing that there are some issues with the project sometimes. But, you know, despite some of the delays that we have experienced, I think it's really starting to make sense with the timing. Some of the things that we are seeing, you know, big announcements being teased right after, you know, KYC and MTL really starts to get rolls out to the user base. I really think it starts to make sense, you know, not marketing, not doing a lot of these things. Yes, it was frustrating. We wanted the project to grow quicker than it did, but now we're starting to kind of see the master plan come together as to why those things didn't happen. The platform just simply wasn't ready to support it. But I feel like it really is kind of in that position now, with everyone having access to the web app and these aspects, that we will start to get to the point where you will see these big announcements coming out. And I mean, it could even be, I mean, you want to talk about a dark horse. You know, we really haven't heard anything about the Veveverse in quite a while. And you know, two schools of thought on that. One, the whole project's a pump and dump rug pull. The Veveverse never existed and it's not going to happen. Okay, maybe, granted, some of you may feel that way. That's fine. Option number two, you know, and shout out to Dan Schawbell. I don't know if you got a chance to watch right now, but he has a saying, and it's just that, don't tell me what you're going to do, surprise and delight. And that really kind of resonates with me. Like don't tell me, hey, this is going to come at some point, and then, you know, fail to deliver on it, get people's hopes and expectations up, and then not deliver on that, and then people are upset. Don't tell me anything, but then when it's ready, just drop it on me and just blow my absolute mind. And I think that could be something that we see happen here. And I'm not saying that the Veveverse is coming next month or anything crazy like that, but, you know, I don't foresee option one being a possibility where it just doesn't exist. So to me, option two, which is, hey, they've been working on it behind the scenes and they just don't want to focus on it because they don't want to say, hey, it's coming out July 1st, and then it gets delayed a month, and then people go, oh, another missed deadline. Like, so, you know, there's some really interesting possibilities, I think, coming out with some of the major catalysts that we have been waiting on. And shout out to Alex Gonzalez, who's in the chat saying trying to add a little bit of, trying to throw us off the scent a little bit. But yeah, I just think, you know, there's a lot of possibilities. But
that is not actually Alex.
Oh,
just
it's
so
not?
Everybody knows, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I got like in trouble for saying because I thought most people thought it was Alex because it was the account would say things that would go in line with what Alex says, and then I posted it online like, oh, hey, we're good guys, it's okay, and then apparently it wasn't him. and Alex got all bad. It was like, oh, wow. My bad.
Okay, well, now I'm sad. Now he's saying yes, it is. We know it's not you. The jig is up.
Oh, but yeah. So there's a. Yeah, I think that probably not Lord of the Rings, because I think they would save that for when the Amazon series comes out, and it probably wouldn't be Harry Potter yet, because they might. I feel like they would have saved that for like Fantastic Beasts, that movie, unless they're gonna come out with like a a Netflix series at some point, which they might. But yeah, the Veveverse, I would say. I mean, Reese had said, I think on Taps' stream, that it's still going to come out this year, at least the first iteration of it anyway.
Yeah.
But one of the other things I think would be anime, because they just had their Japanese Discord,
so a different
launch.
vertical, yeah.
Yeah, the vertical of anime, because they've Dan follows Crunchyroll and Funimation, which are big anime streaming sites.
Okay.
So I think it would either be that. I mean, what's some other verticals like that?
Like sports or music, maybe?
Sports, music, board games.
Yeah.
So maybe board games kind of goes in line with that. But yeah, I any one of those would be great. I'd be so curious to see what it would be.
Well, and that's why I say, like, there's really, you hear about it, a no-win scenario, never a situation you want to be in. I feel like we're almost in a no-lose scenario right now. It's like, hey, whatever they release, and we can be excited about it. If it's not your vertical or it's not your fandom, you simply just don't pursue it, and you focus on the things that you do enjoy. And I think that that's the great thing about this platform. And not to take shots at other platforms, because this is not at all what this is meant to be or intended for. But if a platform is only focused on one specific thing, and that thing is not your thing, then that platform is not for you. Whereas for Veve, they really focus on having a fandom for everyone. And I think that that's absolutely fantastic. I love that they are focusing on catering to pretty much every demographic. I can show, the app to my colleagues at work. I can show it to my younger brother. I can show it to my mom or even my grandparents. And every single one of them is going to find something on the platform that they resonate with, or that, was, from their generation, or that they enjoy, or that they think is interesting. And I think that that's how you realize that we really just can't lose is talk about being in the fishbowl again. Just because something's not for you doesn't mean that it's not for someone else. And, that same person that you think is not meant for this is out there buying 75 snow globes, or they're buying all the alligator Lokis, or they're buying all of the Spider Gwens. I saw someone had like 200 earlier today and tagged me in it. So you really never know what someone's going to be interested in and want to put their money into. You're not just counting on whales to buy out the supply. You're counting on people that are passionate about the things that they enjoy, and they want to resonate with a fandom that they already associate with outside of the platform. Veve is not reinventing the wheel. They're using all of the already established brands and fandoms, and they're just giving it to all of their user base in a new kind of platform that is directly in line with the direction that we are moving in as a society. And I think looking back on it, we'll realize that one of the major catalysts that will have led to the success of the platform was actually the pandemic, because a lot of people were at home. A lot of people were spending more time online. More people were watching Netflix and streaming services, which are related to a lot of the brands that are on the platform. More people were looking for apps in different ways to create their social identity, because it became more important than ever before, because you couldn't see people in person. And I think that that's really continued on post everything that's happened. And I think it's going to be a really interesting direction that we take, just based on everything that's taken place. So
no, agreed. A lot of people saying we have low volume, so the market is thin. I need more liquid. I mean, I don't know if he was talking about. I think that's OMI he was talking about, JL, because OMI did pump to 0.0013, 135 just now. So I'm really curious to see where that goes. 100K that you receive in a windfall. How much goes to OMI? How much goes to collectibles?
Oh boy. For me, because that 100K wouldn't drastically change my life. Like, it wouldn't pay off a bunch of debts that I already have, or anything like that, because this is specific to me. So I just want to make it clear. Like, if someone else receives 100K and like you're in debt, or like you need to pay off someone or something, like, do that. But if it's 100K clear and you don't need it for another purpose, I would probably at this point go 100K into OMI. I mean, like I said, I have 99 sets. I have 600 collectibles / comics. Like, there's nothing that I desperately need to pick up right now that wouldn't be better served in OMI. And what I mean by that is a perfect example. SpiderMan Secret Rare went from 15K to, I think it's at 37 now, but it went up to 43, but we'll call it 37 in the last 24 hours. OMI went from 0.0012 to 0.0013. So you've lost maybe 7 or 8% of your buying power if you're buying OMI right now, but it's more than double to buy the Spider-Man right now if you had just bought it yesterday. So for me, if I buy a Spider-Man at, let's call it $35,000, That $35,000 represents about a third of that windfall that I've received. And now, in order for me to make a 10x on that Spider-Man needs to go up to $350,000. For me to make a 10x on OMI needs to hit its all-time high. But the other consideration that I think a lot of people don't take into account, which I think is important, is and perfectly related to the comment, the liquidity comment that we just received. What is the liquidity that you have for the OMI that you have at a penny versus the Spider-Man collectible that you have that's now $350,000? Because a lot of people don't consider that. Like, who is buying your Spider-Man at $350,000? Now, not to say that no one's out there that would spend $350,000 on a Spider-Man, but once again, there's 1,000 Spider-Mans. So if everyone lists their Spider-Man for $350,000, who is buying your Spider-Man? What makes it different, right? Whereas with OMI, you just put your order in the order book and it'll get filled eventually, one way or another, right? So that's fine. So you need to take that in consideration. And then on top of that, the other thing that people don't consider with collectibles, which is one of the reasons that I'd rather sell at these prices than wait for them to go out, is that I'm actually losing buying power the higher that my collectible goes up relative to the fees that I'm paying to offload that collectible. And what I mean by that is I sell a collectible for $10,000. Let's say it's a Disney collectible. It's $850 as a fee for me to sell that collectible. It's 8.5%. So now I have $9,150. That $9,150 that I then want to cash out, I then pay a 10% fee on. So that 10% fee of $9,150 is $915. So now I have about $8,200. Okay. So that $8,200 will buy me whatever, 7 million OMI at the price right now. Okay. At 0.0013. Okay. That's great. Now I have 7 million OMI. Oh no, the collectible went up to $50,000. Oh no, this is terrible. Like whatever. Maybe OMI didn't go up that much. That's fine. But that $50,000 collectible, I then sell it at 8.5% fee. The fee is like $4,400. So now I only have $46,000. That $46,000 that I want to cash out has a 10% fee. That 10% fee of $46,000 is $4,600. So now I have $41,500 of that $50,000. So now I go to buy some OMI with $41,000. But remember that you've now lost 20% of your purchasing power for
That's
OMI.
a good point.
Which means that instead of OMI needing to 5x like the collectible did for me to be in the same position, I really only needed to 4x. Whereas I'm counting on the collectible to 5x. Now, in this situation, collectibles still may outperform OMI, and that's perfectly okay if that happens in the short term. But just remember that as the prices go up, if you're hoping for your Spider-Man to 10x at $35,000, $350,000, the fee that you're paying at 8.5% is like $28,000 that you're paying to sell that. And then to withdraw that, you're paying another $35,000. So now you're losing $60,000. So that $350,000 collectible is actually only getting cashed out for $290. Now, to be fair, that 10% fee, maybe doesn't exist forever, or maybe it gets offset by MCP or whatever. But, it's just things to consider when people are like, oh, well, collectibles are going to be more valuable than OMI, man. And I'm like, yeah, maybe in the short term that's possible, but I know that if I sell OMI, I'm not paying 20% to get rid of it. And then you're still not accounting for the taxes or anything that you need to pay on that. And then remember as well, if I just want to take out 10% of profits in OMI, I sell 10% of my OMI. But if I want to take out 10% of my collectible, unless they come up with a way to, share ownership or whatever, I can't sell 10% of that collectible. So even if I only want, my $300,000 collectible, I only want $30,000. How am I getting that $30,000, right? Like, so it's just different strokes for different folks. So for me, I get $100,000. I'm putting it all into OMI, and short term, maybe not the best decision. I probably could have leveraged better by getting into certain collectibles and then doing all that. But for me, I just rather avoid the headache and invest in something that I fully understand and just let it ride where the numbers may be. And then when I'm ready to take profits, I can easily take profits. We're listed on bigger exchanges. The liquidity is there, and I don't have to worry about, people decide that Walt is a bad figure all of a sudden and has ties to scary groups or whatever, and then no one wants to buy the partner statue anymore, right? So I don't need to worry about any of that with OMI. I just let it ride, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And so that's my move. How about you?
That makes a lot of sense. And tax. It's not even. Some of it are taxes, but the fees are just so much. That's a good point. And imagine selling something for $350,000, paying $60,000 in fees before taxes. Oh my God, man! So we do have a tweet from Veve Digital Collectibles saying, if you have access to the web beta, please be advised that this drop for Stitch should only be attempted on the mobile app. As with any beta, there still may be various inconsistencies that continue to be in the development. Thank you for understanding. And David Yu do be retweeting saying first appearance, low edition. So and then Reese laughing on top of that. So I thought that was pretty fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. So David Yu, I guess David, this might be the Asian in David Yu, like that not like the business side of it, just the Asian part of it, that Asians really like Stitch because it's in Hawaii and that Lilo and Stitch, there's a lot of Asian heritage in there. I'm not sure the percentage, but there are a lot of like Japanese and Chinese people that are in Hawaii. A couple of my friends that are stationed there, I've noticed that, like, yeah, it's like we're in Chinatown. Like, oh, cool. By the way, you are coming to New York at some point. Have you ever been to a Chinatown?
I don't know that I've been to Chinatown in New York. We have a Chinatown in Ottawa, but I don't know what to compare it to. So like the nice thing about where I live is because it's the nation's capital, we're kind of like a cultural melding pot. Like a lot of new individuals that are entering the country or whatever, they'll come in via Toronto, but they'll generally end up in Ottawa because this is where a lot of the federal government services are for new individuals entering the country. So we do have a very multicultural and diverse kind of area and communities. We have like a little Italy, we have a Chinatown, we have kind of different areas. So our Chinatown is, it's not something that like you'd see in Rush Hour where they have like a Chinatown or whatever. It's like, oh, like whatever. But like it is what it is. But yes, I am actually coming to New York. I don't think I've talked about it yet.
Is that a secret?
No, it's not 100% confirmed, but it should be happening.
I have it in my calendar. It is 100% confirmed. Yeah. Okay.
So for those of you that are watching that don't know, I'm coming with a buddy to watch the Jake Paul fight, him fighting Fury on August 6th, I think. So it's not 100% confirmed yet. My buddy is down to go, but we're just looking at the tickets and trying to figure out how expensive it's going to be. So I'm definitely down to come. I'm off that weekend. And my wife has given me the blessing to get out of the house for the first time in 2 years. So with the kids, so she's taking the bullet for me on that one. And then she said I owe her a weekend at some point. So that's fine. So nice. I'm definitely looking to be coming down there for the August 5th, 6th, 7th weekend. So I'd probably drive up on the 5th and then head back out on the 7th. So looking. Oh,
you're
looking
driving?
Forward. Yeah, we're driving. It should only be about a 5-hour drive. Like it's not.
But you're driving into New York City?
Yeah. We'll find somewhere to park. I'll pay for parking. Well, I got a hotel.
It is not fun. It is not fun driving in New York City.
Well, yeah, but you got to remember, like, if I take my own car and I spend like $100 in gas, let's say, and then even if I have to pay $50 a night to find parking, like it maybe cost me $300 all told to bring my vehicle, but to fly there just one person would cost like $500-600. So like it's saving us like $800 or $900, and like it kind of allows us to go at our own pace and stuff as well, right? Like if we're running behind, then we don't have to worry about flights, or like, hey, if we want to stay a little bit later because like the vibe is good and whatever. So
that's a good point.
Yeah. So
can we convince you to stay for a while?
We'll see. I mean, I do got to go to work still. I mean, the money's not there yet with the project, but it should be there soon where I'll be able to kind of, stay around for a little while and visit. I'm hoping to also get out to, not San Diego Comic-Con, but what's the event in November?
That is a Designer Con in Anaheim.
Designer Con in Anaheim. So I'm hoping to get out there with the family, bring the wife and kid down, check out Disney a little bit. I think my daughter would really enjoy that, and hoping to do that a little bit. So I'm hoping to get out a little bit more. It's been hard with COVID to get out to some of these events. And I know, people have been asking me to kind of come out and whatever. And I would absolutely love to. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone and meeting the team and the whole fam. But yeah, it's been tough a little bit, but we'll make it happen. But I know I've already pinged you because I know you're kind of in the greater New York area. So I look forward to meeting up with you. Hopefully we're able to get together and, oh, that's what it was. 169. Okay. Yeah. I should have known it was a funny number, but awesome, Wes. That's fantastic, man. But yeah, so I'm going to be coming down. So are we checking out Chinatown? Is that where you're going with all that?
Well, I was just there at NFT NYC. I was there with Kirk Allen, CEO of Caliscope, assistant B, it was Wendy, it was Spencer from Comics and Crypto, and I think Crypto Rain and Doctor Stuff was there as well, and like a couple other people. It was a wild week. It was a wild week. But I just had this like thought cross through my brain that your wife and like Kyle Willson and Dan Lee's wife would have like a group chat, be like, okay, if the boys are having their weekend, let's have our girls' weekend. And then Wendy somehow gets into the fold, be like, I'll take you everywhere. And her like Colombian accent. And they go to like Vegas. They do like a Saved by the Bell type of thing. And they just, at that point, there's this dystopian society where OMI's like king and they gamble all the OMI away. And then they have to find a way to gamble themselves back with like.
So it's like the Hangover mixed with like,
yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
I'd pay for that movie. That was great. Me and I don't know if Wendy knew what we were doing. Me and Spencer of Comics and Crypto at the Cardano party one night. Well, I don't know how we got to do it, but we were doing the Kamehameha wave, like from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
So like, and then at the end, Wendy just goes, ah! It was the cutest thing. That was so great.
Man.
Dude, we got to do karaoke when you're there. When you're here. You and your buddy, we got to.
I don't know that my singing voice is something that's meant to grace the presence of this world. It's so great that I just
too angelic.
It's too angelic. It's like you know when you hold your voice up to a glass like the opera singers and things break. That's what happens when I sing, but it's not breaking in a good way. So, but we'll figure something out, I'm sure. But yeah.
Do you know the web address for the Veve online access for the beta web app?
app.veve.me.
Oh, nice. Foster got that on lock right there.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on this already with the NFTs versus the OMI, Grail Comics versus Grail NFTs, like Fantastic Four #1 or the Walt, or do you have Fantastic Four #5 or Vader? Which way you going?
I hope Sleeping Comics isn't still in the chat. I saw him here earlier. He may chastise me for this one, but I'll be honest. I'm not super massive on the whole like MCU. I don't know a lot about the lore. So I know it's valuable based on kind of what other people tell me, or at least what they believe is valuable. So definitely not a comic expert. I would obviously say if you're able to get your hands or already own an MC1 Secret Rare, Marvel Comics #1 Secret Rare, I think you're doing all right for yourself. Same with Fantastic Four #1. I do own Amazing Spider-Man #1 Secret Rare. That my wife got on a drop actually back in whatever it was, August of last year. It's done fairly well for itself. So, I know those have done fairly well. And there's a couple other comics that do well. My only concern about comics, just as kind of a generality, is, I mean, we saw it this week alone. There was 5 comic drops. Now, mind you, it was a sequential run from the same series, but there's like 30,000 comics that Marvel has created, and we're eventually going to see all of them on the platform. So I just feel like they're going to become so oversaturated and diluted that it's going to be hard to find value in the vast majority of them. Whereas I feel like with collectibles, the value proposition of them is kind of more clear. Unless they start releasing, Partner Statue version 2 and, Todd V2 or whatever. Like, I think that even like we have like 50 Batmans on the platform, but everyone knows what Todd is. Like everyone, you say, hey, I have a Todd, and they're like, oh, Todd, like everyone knows, even though there's a bunch of Batmans. Hey, I have a Partner Statue. Like everyone's like, oh, you have a Partner Statue. Like no one goes like, oh, there's other Disney Golden Moments, like Partners is invaluable. Like, so for me, I have primarily more so focused on the collectibles because it's just something that I can kind of articulate to others and kind of believe myself that like, okay, like I could see why people would want this. But that being said, some of the highest recorded physical sales in history for collectibles has been for comics. And we've seen them as recently as this month and this year. So, there is definitely a market for the comic books. And, I think eventually some of them will do extremely well. But for me, it's easy for me to say, hey, I own a Todd. Maybe they make it into an avatar that I can use in the Veveverse. And if you own a Todd, you get an avatar that you can actually run around with as a character. Yeah. If I own a comic, it's not going to be that same value proposition. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things that makes the comics most valuable, I think, in my opinion, is being able to read them. In a physical comic, you can't read because you're keeping it in a sleeve and you don't want to degrade it. You want to keep it, or it looks something like this, and it's, you're never going to open it, right? Like
Yeah.
That's cool, but I can actually read a comic book on Veve, which I think is fantastic. But I don't know that in and of itself is enough, where I could just own the common cover variant of Marvel Comics #1, and I think I own 6 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can still read that comic book, and it's the exact same inside. It's just the cover is different, and of course the cover denotes scarcity and whatever. But for the average person, and this is my biggest concern about collectibles as well, is like, and I've used this example for SpiderMan, and some people will just say I'm bitter because I don't own it anymore. But realistically, this is part of the value proposition of why I was like, I'm okay letting it go at the time, was what makes the secret rare SpiderMan any different than the common? Yes, it has an animation that it does. Granted, okay, that's different. But like, if I don't have enough money for a secret rare SpiderMan, I'm just buying the rare or the uncommon or the common, and then I still own a Spider-Man, right? So like, I don't have enough for the secret rare Marvel Comics #1. I could probably go out and buy the common, and I can still read the comic book, right? So I like collectibles. I've always been kind of like a maxi of collectibles that are one of ones that, or whatever. So like, that's one of the reasons that I like the partner statue so much, is that it is the only partner statue. It is what it is. And if you want the partner statue, you either own the partner statue or you don't own the partner statue. You can't say, hey, I own, like, you either own it or you don't. Same with something like Superman. That's a one of one that completes a set. I own 3 of them, because you either own the FA Superman with 8,888 editions or you don't, right? So arguments like that, I could see value for, but it's really a toss up, and it's not enough of my comfort level where I would say definitively, like, do one or the other. Just kind of what I've been doing. So
Agreed. That's a good point. I always love the numbers. I always love the facts you bring. Speaking of facts, I have no idea what I like. So I feel like this is like the Blackfish thing, if you remember that, where there's this, for those of you that don't know, there was a documentary made on what was happening at SeaWorld, and it was just like these fish were, and it could have been made in a way where it was worse than it was, but there was some bad stuff happening. And then SeaWorld made a documentary trying to debunk it, but you couldn't really debunk it the whole way. I think there was a documentary made like 3 months ago, and then another one like a few days ago about some people in the Bored Ape Yacht Club, or it could have been the creators, I don't know, that had some really hardcore white supremacy ties. Like Jimmy Fallon took his Bored Ape Yacht Club down, but then like 2 days ago, Eminem and Snoop Dogg released a video with their Bored Apes. Like, they turned them into Bored Apes. Snoop Dogg is clearly not a white supremacist supporter. So what do you think is going on here? Explain to me what the Bored Ape Yacht Club is doing.
I feel like I have to be very careful with this one, because it is kind of a hot button issue. But what I will say is, I did watch the entire documentary that Philion made. I think it was like an hour and 8 minutes long. I've seen the whole thing. I found it interesting. I haven't commented on it on social media at all. I haven't given my thoughts on it as of yet. I think that if you structure anything a certain way, you can sell anyone on pretty much anything. I didn't get that vibe from this video. I felt like it was presented very methodically, and it appeared well researched. That being said, I did not independently verify any of the information that was given in the video. So, and this is the biggest issue in the world as a whole, is someone will see something online and they'll immediately go, oh, it must be true because I saw it on the internet, which is why I said earlier with the David Yu poll, like, I haven't verified it myself, right? So I just caution people on that. I haven't verified anything that's in the video, but if the connections are valid that he made and they weren't, made up or whatever the case may be, it was a very compelling argument as to connections that may exist. And I haven't seen any response yet from the team that would clarify any of the allegations that were made. They made a statement that was basically just like, hey, we're not racist. But like, that's not really like clarifying like any of the facts that he made. I'm not in a position to own a Bored Ape. I don't have the money to own a Bored Ape. I would say some of the things that upset me the most, even outside of kind of the more serious allegations, were the simple things like hey, MoonPay is paying content creators to own these. And you don't see any of those disclaimers in any of the things that people own. You look at it and you're like, oh, this person says they own, or like even Jimmy Fallon talking about, and that might have been the reason he took it down, to be honest with you. It wasn't even the more serious allegations. It might have just been like, hey, MoonPay is paying all these people, but they're making them sign a non-disclosure agreement to basically say like, hey, you can't tell people that we paid you to get this.
Yeah.
So that's a little troubling because even people that I follow and find interest in the content in, like Mike Malak with the Night Shift, I mean, he used MoonPay to get his. So, what's going on there, right? So it is interesting. I think publicity like that is never good for a project, and especially if the ties are found to be true. It's obviously very troubling, and you do see with some of the art, if you look at it through that lens, how it could be true. But once again, anything could be true if you paint it to be true in enough way, right? So like I can look at an image and be like, oh, that's funny, and then someone could be like, oh, well, that's racist, and then I'm like, oh god, like I'm a racist. Like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cleveland Indians, right? Like this became an issue a couple of years ago in major sports where people were like, hey, these images are, they denote people in a negative light, or we find them to be inappropriate or racist. We no longer want these teams to be referred to as this in professional sports. So this became a whole thing a couple of years back. So, I'm just one person. I watched the video. I'd highly recommend watching it for yourself and forming your own opinions. It did put some things into question for me to the point where I probably wouldn't want to get involved in the project myself. Yeah.
I'd much rather buy OMI.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Like that. Let's just say if the evidence is true, there was a lot of evidence there. So
okay.
If it's true, I can't say definitively because once again, I haven't looked into it myself because I'm not involved in the project. But if what he said is true, yeah, they're in some trouble. But once
get
again,
out and come to Veve.
Oh yeah, but only if it's true, and I can't say one way or another. But yeah,
even if it's not true, get out and come to Veve.
Well, that's it. You know what? Even if it's not true, but I'm not going to start a smear campaign. But yeah, it was. I tend to dance around these issues because I just don't want to get involved in it. But yeah, it was. A very well done video. I will say, like, if you're gonna make evidence, even if it's fake or not, even if it's a deep fake, like, it was very convincing. So
there's, I was at NFT NYC this week along with a couple of other people. I had that thing at the Hamptons yesterday. You're going to DesignerCon in London. I will be going to San Diego Comic-Con. Do you know of any other cons that are going out this year? Because I don't think we have anything at Gen Con. Which is, I think, in like the Midwest of the US.
No, so just the London one, I think, is confirmed.
Yeah,
and the Anaheim DesignerCon, and then San Diego Comic-Con, I think, is.
And then New York Comic-Con will be.
And then New York Comic-Con, yeah. So those are the only ones that I know of. But I mean, we could be. I mean, I don't think any of us saw Veve being the title sponsor of San Diego Comic-Con last year. Like, I don't think any of us saw that coming. So, it wouldn't surprise me if Veve ends up in quite a few places, just because, in the circles that they're in, David Yu and Alfred Kahn have a lot of influence. And, it wouldn't surprise me to see them out there. So,
agreed. What are your thoughts on Donnie? I know one was just bought up today.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there was one. What are your thoughts on
34K? I think it was
35. I think, yeah,
or 35. Okay. Oh, it got bought. Interesting. Did it get bought or did it get delisted? Do we know?
I think it got bought.
Okay.
I don't know if I could say from who, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was bought.
It's just you either know it got bought or you don't.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah. Surprising. Hey, we're talking about so many topics that I just feel like are just going to get me in trouble now. So,
wait, how does Donnie get you in trouble?
No, so scarcity in and of itself doesn't make things valuable. Okay, so value is primarily derived by popularity and what its intrinsic value proposition is, right? So just because something has not a lot of mints doesn't make it valuable. Couple examples: the 007 7-piece kind of placard thing that was released on the platform. People listed it for a couple of insane prices. From my understanding, none of them were purchased. I think I saw it up on auction for like 9.9K starting. the other day. Someone posted about it. Like, just because something is scarce doesn't make it valuable. I always use the analogy, like, I turn a piece of poop into an NFT, it's still a piece of poop. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really what it boils down to. So not to say that Donnie's a piece of poop or anything, but 150 editions came out in season 1, Powerpuff Girls, not the biggest of IPs in the world. Andre Jick, big fan of Powerpuff Girls, never even considered buying it because, it's not one of the biggest characters from the platform. The team has publicly come out and stated, hey, we made a mistake on the edition sizing of this. We made it too small. Probably should have been bigger for the platform size that we had at the time. I don't know that there's enough hardcore Donnie fans out there to justify purchasing that collectible. Ride the Lightning board that came out during Designer Con last year from Lincoln Design Co. Skate Shop went up to like $13,000. Like, it was 150 editions, secret rare. Everyone was like, oh my God, I need to get myself one of these. And now they're listed for like $2K and no one's buying them. And the reason for that is that there's no value contrived with it. Now, if that design skate shop came out and said, hey, if you own one of these, we'll give you a physical board or something, right? Like, hey, that's value. Okay, people are going to buy that at that point. But there's nothing valuable about Donnie other than the fact that it has 150 editions, which in and of itself is not enough value. What about
the flex?
But once again, what is the flex about owning a Donnie other than there's 150 of them?
It's one of the first steps on the app. It's just rare, and that just shows you that you spent. It's like people back in like the Victorian era or like Shakespeare's era, they were proud of having big bellies because it showed that they could afford to eat well. People would be proud to have this because it showed that they're a baller, and it signals to women out there, oh, he's got a Don. I guarantee you, some incel out there with $50,000, like, give me this Donnie. It'll open up my access to more women. Guaranteed it. I am those people. No, just
you know what? And for those people, and once again, this conversation again is a fishbowl conversation, right? Like, in my fishbowl, I don't see a value proposition for Donnie where I could be buying, if I have $35,000 to spend, I'm buying 30 million OMI at today's prices, personally, right? And we've kind of talked about the value proposition of 10x, and we've already been through all that. But I just don't see it for Donnie. Like, if your main argument for something is, well, it's super scarce, bro, then that's not an argument, right? Like, there's a ton of projects on OpenSea that are scarce or one of ones or whatever. It doesn't make them valuable. Does the IP and the edition size and the character support the valuation that it's receiving? And I cannot make a rational argument to anyone that is supporting that valuation. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't one whale out there that's a Donnie Maxi or has a kid that has Donnie as their favorite character, and they're more than willing to spend that amount of money. But if I could get 30 million OMI, or I could get a secret rare SpiderMan, or I could get 3 more partner statues, or I could get a secret rare, Marvel Comics #1, like that to me are all far more better value propositions than buying a Donnie. But if having a Donnie is a flex to you and you want to be able to buy that, then, all the power to you. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. It's your money. But for me, if I had that amount of money, it's not what I'm spending it on.
So I think, and obviously you're coming from like hey, the better ROI is other places, clearly. But there's also people that maybe might not care so much about that. They have enough OMI, they have whatever. But then you have, like for me, like collecting, the most expensive cards are Japanese cards. Because for Pokemon, because they're the ones that aren't released in English are the ones that they have a limited release. There's a finite amount of them, and you had to be somewhere, that unique release that ties it in. So something that about Donnie being region locked to, I think, China, and you never being able to, you couldn't get it unless you were in China or unless you knew someone in China. So it's just got the little extra layer, that little piece of history that is like that. I do have
Adam's grilling me in the comments. No, he, you know what? And he brings up a great point. He says, not an argument. Sounds like someone is flooding Donnie so that he can get in low. It's, you know what, man? And you're totally right. And you know what? And to be fair, people will always look out for their own bags at the end of the day. So like, you're 100% right. Like, I will always be more bullish on Walt because I own 3 of them than a lot of the other comics, right? Like, I'm going to be more bullish on Walt than I'm going to be bullish on Secret Rare Spider-Man because I don't own a Secret Rare Spider-Man and I own Walt. but that doesn't mean that I can't acknowledge that Secret Rare SpiderMan is valuable for XYZ reason. It's when I kind of objectively look at something and go like, I don't really see the value in that. But once again, you raise a great point. Like to someone else, it would be inherently valuable, and it is an argument. If it goes to a couple $100, I will definitely buy a Donnie so that I can say that I have one. But beyond that, I would just spend my own money on other things. So
now, speaking about rare, first off, thank you for the shout out. Me home saying, VV, great VV day, guys. $100 super chat, many more to come. Guaranteed. Great stream, smart conversation. Thank you. I had asked a buddy of mine this morning who was tracking the Aston Martin DB5. One of them went on sale, the 1 of 7s, last night. It was at auction. Wound up selling for a little over $80,000. And then I saw this morning Dr. Profit listed his for $200,000 for 200,000 gems. So either Dr. Profit has 2 or doesn't really care about the Aston Martin, has 1, and could use those 200,000 gems elsewhere. And that is the cheapest on the marketplace right now.
Interesting. Okay.
And the person that I asked did also tell me that they do have the number 41 Winnie the Pooh. So if you happen to want that number 41 Winnie the Pooh is.
There you go.
Just let me know. Shoot me a DM. I'll be able to get that. Nice. Was that the rest of the chats? Web app. What was it again? VV.
App.vv.me.
App.vv.me. Okay, there it is. Thank you so much. So thank you for that. There was something I can't find the comment now. It just got buried, but it said that I was on Tap's stream like last week sometime last week, and it was I had asked him just like where he kept like his crypto, and he's like, on my phone, and I was like, what? You kept all of it on your phone? I just lost my mind because I have on the opposite end of that thing, like military made me super like paranoid and like secure. Like, okay, it's on like 6 different trust wallets, and then the VV app. Where do you keep your crypto? Do you have it in like a bank vault? Do you have it in a floor safe?
A bank vault. Got a bank vault built into my house. No. So one of the reasons I would never keep my crypto on a cold storage wallet in a bank vault is that I'm still relying on that bank, and I feel like that completely defeats the purpose of like taking care of your own assets. So it's a good question, and it's something that I've. Oh wow, the super chats are really rolling in today.
Yeah, dude, we got to do this more often.
Yo, shout out to the fam, man. My goodness. I should be sponsored by Moonpay. I should be getting a kickback here or something. No,
I know, right?
So where I keep my crypto right now is a great question. I've actually made 2 videos about this recently. Actually, let's go through the super chats first, and then we can get back to this. So yeah,
sure. So Adam Wassleface coming in with the not the money thing, saying it's not just about popularity, not just saying popularity is value. Hard stop. Discredits art. It's early. Some people want stories. Some want something others can't. Some want what they can connect to. It's not any one thing that equals value. VV has it all. That is a good point. And even if we go with, even if most of the world thought like you, which would not be a bad thing at all, that'd be, I think it'd be very good. 99.99% of the people that thought like that or got in there, that still leaves that 0.01% of people that want Donnie, and there's not a ton, so it doesn't take a ton for people to do that. There's probably more than 100 something people that would like that and would have to.
Yeah, I think Adam brings up a fantastic point, and it kind of relates to the conversation that we were having earlier. And Adam, I'm not sure if you were here for it or not, but we were basically saying, someone could own 75 secret rare snow globes, and that could be inherently value to them. And we may not understand it for whatever reason, but it makes sense to them, and that's all that they care about. So I think that that's fantastic. And that's perfectly okay. We have people that own Spider Gwens and different things that, I personally don't really care about, but just because, and this is the most important thing that people need to understand, is just because I don't care about something or I don't agree with something that you think is valuable, doesn't by any sense of the imagination take away from the value proposition that exists from it, right? Like if you find Donnie valuable or you find the Lincoln Design Co. skateboard valuable, like all the power to you. It's just for me, for the access to the funds that I have, where I would choose to put my money, which is just somewhere different than where you think that it makes sense to put your money. And for me, I'm looking at it from what's the greatest ROI on my investment. But for you, you may not be looking at it from that lens. You're looking at it as this has value to me for other reasons. And everyone else has a different kind of financial landscape and access to funds and things like that. So, I think that that's an absolutely fantastic point, Adam. And, I think it's great that we can have these conversations, because a lot of people just and it's mind-boggling. Like the second the valuations of items started going up on Twitter, it's just like, hey, this is still undervalued. Oh, thin floor in this collectible, like for everything all the time. Like it's just like everyone is just always shilling their stuff, and it's just like, and it's, you know what I mean? Like if you're finding something that's valuable to you and you're able to get in on it and whatever, like all the power to you. And value comes from so much more than just what the dollar number is on the screen. So I think that's fantastic, and people should collect what they enjoy, which, you know, it was the purpose of why David and Dan created this app in the first place. It was never meant to release a collectible and have it go up 100 or 1,000x. It was meant to release fandoms that you were passionate about and create communities and kind of, you know, groups together. And that's why, like, I'm like all the time I wear my partner's sweater to work because I'm part of Partners Club 33, and I wear that sweater to work all the time. And people are always just like, "Oh my god, like whatever." And I'm like, no, like I'm proud to be rocking this, like whatever. So, you know, be proud of the things that you own, and you know, defend them, and just, you know, show people you're passionate in them and why you're passionate about it. And that's how communities grow. So
Agreed. I took a picture of Adam Awesome Face's super chat that he'd rent the Donnie cheap to get into the party. Rob Stone thinks it's for the 1%, which it very may well be. I think only the 1% can definitely get them, unless they do like the first 40, they do like a giveaway somehow.
Yeah.
I don't. What ask what Jake Paul? What is min pay like? Like, is that the?
I think it said Moon Pay, and then he went to edit it.
Did he have one?
Did
he have a Bored Ape Yacht Club?
No, but I think Jake was using Moon Pay for something else, for another NFT project, and then he also got in some trouble with Safe Moon and stuff. So yeah, I don't know, but so, yeah, Jake Paul is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have money on Jake Paul to win the fight. Because my buddy has always bet against Jake Paul, and I've won money from him every single time. And then I also bet for Logan Paul to not win against Floyd, but survive the 8 rounds. And he did. So I've won like $250 off my buddy. So, you know, I was talking about it and I was like, you know what? We're always betting and you're losing anyways. Like, if you're going to lose money, why don't we just go watch the thing live? And he's like, all right, let's do it. So we're going to go watch the fight live. But yeah, Jake Paul, yeah, like I know nothing about the guy, like whatever, that's fine. You have your own opinions on him, but CoffeeZilla has made enough videos about, you know, Jake Paul being involved in things that he probably shouldn't be, that he needs to smarten up, because when the SEC and stuff starts to come knocking, he's gonna be in a little trouble, I think. And then only because I've seen it in the comments like 6 times. Jared, I see you. Sometimes it doesn't fit into the flow of the conversation, but you keep asking about the partner statue that I have behind me on my shelf. I got it from a guy named Joshua Evans on Facebook. So if you look up Joshua Evans, common spelling both times, he has like I think there's like actual Discord about it as well. And I got it from him. It's called Veve's Golden Moments. Veve's Golden Moments. So just look that up and you can get that. So
okay. Legit.
I'm not sponsored by them or anything, by the way. I bought it with my own money. I just thought it was cool, and I have 3 of them there. So because one of them broke, he sent me another one.
So I feel bad for a couple of people. Like let's say you just get into the hype. Let's say you're relatively new to crypto, or you've had success in 1 or 2 things, and you get into something like MoonPay or Safe Moon or like whatever it is, and that looks so cool.
Yeah, sorry. Someone said, "Can you show it?" So I'm just going to grab a quick
no, that's good.
So we don't keep talking about it. But yeah, it's 3D printed, and it has you can get it with your individual mint number, which I thought was cool. And at the time, he was accepting gems, so I paid him in gems.
Nice. What do you think about someone that let's say covers everything, but then they also happen to cover rug pulls, like they cover like Baby Trump and Schmegmars, and they cover you know, is that what Jake Paul got in trouble for? Because he was covering a couple different things, and 1 or 2 of them happened to be rug pulls? Was there like, oh, hey, he actually might be part of this?
So there's about 6 different projects that he's been implicated in being either pump and dumps or him being directly involved in. So
so it's not just a one-off thing.
No, like Safe Moon was obviously the one that probably most people know about, but he was, you know, getting paid by the team and not disclosing that he was being sponsored, and he's done that a few times, which is his biggest cardinal sin, is basically he's being sponsored by someone and, you know, not disclosing that, and then pumping it up and then selling it and whatever. So that's a big no-no for SEC purposes. You do have to disclose if you're being sponsored, which is why in any of my videos, if you guys watch me and segue back into that conversation where I keep my OMI, I talk about in my OMI, like, hey, I keep it on a ledger. You guys can click a link and buy a ledger from this link. And then I disclose, like, I'm not sponsored by Ledger. Ledger doesn't pay me, but I do get a small kickback from you using that referral link if you choose to do so. So I'm doing that to cover, myself, to make sure that I'm good. But when you don't do that, and you're someone like Soldier Boy or Jake Paul that just puts out a tweet or something that's like, hey, I found this NFT. This NFT is awesome. You guys should buy it. And you're being paid by that company to hold that NFT, then you can get in trouble. So that I think is where he's going to get in trouble. So segueing back into the conversation about where I keep my funds, I've made a couple of videos about this recently. I keep it on a ledger. So I bought a ledger last week and moved all my funds over to Ledger. If you guys are curious as to how to move your funds onto a cold storage wallet, specifically Ledger, because that's what I did my video on, you can check out my video on my channel. I do a step-by-step guide of how to do it. It's really fairly painless, but if you're ever looking for that kind of extra step to make sure you're doing everything right, check out the video. I hope it helps you guys. And if you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments, and I do my best to get back to everyone. So I have it on a ledger right now. The reason that I chose to move all of my crypto to cold storage is about a month ago, Veve or Ecomi and Ascendex came up with a partnership where you could stake your OMI on Ascendex for 10% APR. So I elected to do that at the time with all of my holdings. So I had all of my OMI on Ascendex in one platform. It wasn't accessible to anyone in the United States, but it was available to me in Canada, so I took advantage of it. And then at some point last week, I think it was last Friday, I lost the ability to receive my SMS 2FA code. So an SMS 2FA code, for those of you guys that have used exchanges previously, you'll know if you go to withdraw money or you go to enter into a trade or something, or to even log on in a lot of cases, you have to enter in your SMS 2FA code, which is just an extra level of security to protect yourself. So I was able to log on my phone because I have Face ID, but I was trying to withdraw funds and I couldn't. The SMS code just wasn't coming through. And I was like, oh, it's a little weird. Gave it the night. Next day, tried to get it again, still wasn't coming through. So then I contacted Ascendex support, and they were saying, hey, we're having an issue sending us SMS codes. And this was right around the time when, Binance was suspending withdrawals. The Celsius situation had just happened where they locked all users out of their funds. And immediately I was like, oh my God, like, am I about to lose every single one of my OMI tokens because Ascendex is going under? What's going on here? So I started to get fairly nervous. So I was speaking to their support team on and off for a day or two. And they were basically like, hey, it's a third-party issue. We're trying to get it resolved. We don't have a solution for you. So I ended up basically removing my SMS 2FA code from Ascendex via support. My withdrawals were locked for 24 hours, and then I added in Google Authenticator, and then I was able to take all of my funds off of the platform via that, and then I was able to use my email and Google Authenticator to do that. And then at that point, I said, do I want to put my money back onto a MetaMask or onto a Trust wallet? And just with everything that's been happening recently, I was like, you know what? The absolute safest place for my OMI right now is to not be anywhere connected to the internet. So I was doing research. I actually own an Ecomi secure wallet, but a lot of people don't have access to the Ecomi secure wallet. It's often sold out. So I was telling people like, hey, I'm moving my money onto cold storage. You're asking me what I'm doing with it. And then like 6 or 7 different people, they're like, hey, can you do one on Ledger? I have a Ledger. I'm thinking about buying a Ledger. And I was just like, okay, if a bunch of you guys want to see it, I'll make the video if it helps out the community. So I bought the Ledger. It came in 2 days later, and I was able to make that video and transfer it all into Ledger. And it just gives me a little bit more security, knowing that, unless my Ledger, unless you have my passphrase, or unless you know the 8-digit code to log on to my Ledger, and you have access to all of that, like, you're not getting my funds. Versus, that's on me. Versus something like Ascendex, if they just lock me out of my funds, then I can't get them back, and I basically have no recourse. So yeah. I would highly recommend to anyone that's listening right now or watching this back after the fact, with all the volatility that we're seeing in the markets right now, if you do have your funds on exchanges, you don't have to put them on a cold storage wallet. This is not me saying, hey, like, you need to do the thing that I'm doing, but at the very least, put it on a Trust wallet, put it on a MetaMask, or put it on several exchanges, parse it out via several exchanges if you have access to it. Having all of your crypto in one place right now, especially if it's on an exchange, is not the play. It's far too risky. Even major exchanges aren't immune to having financial issues. FTX is bailing out exchanges right now because they're in financial trouble. Yeah. It's just too much risk, guys. And if you have, if you have $100 invested in the project, it doesn't make sense to go out and buy a $200 cold storage wallet. Granted, makes no sense. move it to a secure wallet, or just keep it on the exchange. Don't worry about paying gas fees, and you're fine. But if you have 5 or 6 figures or even 7 figures invested in, even if it's not just in OMI, but in any project, don't leave it on an exchange right now, guys. The last thing that I want to see is any of you guys comment and say, oh my gosh, I lost everything because XYZ happened. Be safe, take control of your crypto, take control of your keys, and it's the best play for sure. So
agreed. I think so. I forget where, I can't find where the comment was, but somebody said that they used to work for a bank vault, and they would, a lot of the people that would get like keys to their bank vault, they would keep their spare key in the vault. Like they wouldn't keep it like somewhere else. They would, so if they lose their key, then they can't get. So stupid. Something we haven't talked about. We haven't. Nobody's really talked about for a while. Dev Jedi says, I own 400 comics. I can rent them out for 25 cents a day. At $100 a day, it beats working. Outside of being able to read comics, what are some utilities that you think might spark some rentals and being able to rent out collectibles?
Yeah, so that's a great comment, Dive Jedi. The app is not at the point yet where 99% of the collectibles that exist would be of interest for pretty much anyone to rent out. But I think long-term, we know that the renting functionality is coming, but where it really becomes valuable is when the utility for collectibles is added into the platform. So as a perfect example, the Veveverse comes out and you want to be able to go to Disneyland in the Veveverse. But in order to go to Disneyland in the Veveverse, you need to own or you want to go to Star Wars Land in Disney World in the Veveverse. But in order to do that, you need to own an R2-D2 or a C-3PO. They're all sold out. They don't exist in the marketplace anymore. And the cheapest one that you're going to be able to pick one up for is $1,000. But you really want to go to this event for the day. They're doing something, or you need points to complete a quest or whatever. You could rent that collectible from someone that's renting their collectible for $5 or $10 for the day and complete that quest or do whatever is required of you to hold that collectible. And then you get to complete that, which could be good for MCP points, which could give you access to different areas or different benefits. And that person that's renting out that collectible can get some money for having that renting out collectible. Will every collectible be available to rent out? Probably. Will every collectible make sense to be rented out? Probably not. And what I mean by that is, you have a certain collectible that's just not popular. There'll just be no reason to rent it out. There'll be no reason to hold it. But the great thing about the ecosystem that exists with Veve is that they can give you a reason to hold that collectible. So you want to hold the one of the hoverboards that came out from Back to the Future hoverboards that came out. You want to hold the common one, the one with Mattel, the one, the most popular one. And you need that to because you can ride it in the Veveverse. Well, then they can add in an event that makes it beneficial, and then you'll rent that out because you want access to it. So, there will be benefits to it. Even IRL events, if you want access to a party or something, and you need to own a secret rare SpiderMan, and someone has 5 of them, well, now they have the ability to rent out 4 of them to people so that they can come to the party. And they can basically control the price that they rent that out. Because if you want to come to that party, you're going to pay $500 or $1,000 for that day to rent it out. So, there's definitely a lot of avenues that they can.
That better be a good ass party. About paying $1,000 to go.
But you know what I mean. But like the owners basically control the supply at that point. Like if things are sold out and they don't exist, like if you want to go, you're paying those prices, and if you don't pay those prices, then you're not going. So. It's the same thing with anything. Like I want to go to this Jake Paul fight because I think it's gonna be fun. The cheapest tickets are $250. I either pay the $250 or I don't go to the fight. Like if there's no in between on it, right? Like the utility for me owning that ticket is being able to go to this event. And if I don't own that ticket, I can't go to that event. So the utility proposition for a lot of these collectibles, especially if they're interoperable, like interoperability, they can write it into the smart contracts. Like you might be able to take it off the platform while you're renting it out because it's interoperable, but they may have a clause in the contract where you can't sell it anywhere else, but you can go to Terra or Virtua, I think it's called now. You can go to Virtua, go to their metaverse, or you can go to the sandbox or something. Like there's just so many options that are going to be available that the value proposition for renting will exist. But I would be hesitant to say just because you own 100 collectibles or 100 or 400 comics and you're renting them all out for 25 cents, you still need 100 people to want to rent out that collectible regardless of the price. But if Veve has the ability to add that value in, then it'll be there. So
Agreed. Rob Stone thinks airplanes and cars will be very rentable in the VV-verse.
Yep.
I do want to get to that, but we do have a super large super chat from Crypto's Taco. Again, thank you so much for feeding us. Saying, what do you think Ethereum max when they both got paid with Kim Kardashian? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So Ethereum max was a cryptocurrency that came out after Ethereum, and it was basically just like how there's like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Lite and like all this thing. Like Ethereum Max was just basically like a derivative project of Ethereum, and it's just basically like, well, this is like Ethereum but on steroids. It's even better. And Kim Kardashian got in trouble because she was basically promoting Ethereum Max on her social media following, and she's got like 100 million followers, right? So she was like, hey guys, I heard about this new project, Ethereum Max. I think that this is awesome. You guys should really check it out. I'm investing in it, blah, blah, blah. And like, didn't disclose that it was a paid ad, didn't disclose that she was receiving funds for it. And so she got in trouble for that. So it's, it calls into question in, Randy, you know this better than anyone. Like as content creators, we really have to be careful about being transparent with our viewers. And I think that that's really important. And that's how you build a community is like, hey guys, like, just so you know, like this is where I stand on this. And this is why I stand here on this. And I think people will always value your input a lot more if you can give them the full story than just like, hey, whatever. But unfortunately, people either because they're just not, maybe Kim Kardashian just simply didn't know or whatever, or they just don't care because they're like, hey, I'm not going to get in trouble for this. But yeah, it's a bad situation, and it happens in crypto, and it gives crypto as a whole a bad name because people get in, like the crypto queen. I think, oh gosh,
Darcy Donovan?
No. This was a different person.
Okay.
No. Darcy actually follows me. Shout out to Darcy. No.
Oh,
I think Darcy calls herself something similar, but no. Oh, God, what's his name? I follow him on YouTube, and he makes videos all the time.
Wait, he's a him, and he calls himself the Crypto Queen?
No, he was exposing someone who called themselves the Crypto Queen, but it's not Darcy Donovan. Yeah. And like they're just always promoting like pump and dump scams and stuff like that. So it's just, it's just things to be aware of where, you can say whatever you want. Like I can be like, hey guys, like Walt's going to go to $100,000. You guys should buy it. I think that's fantastic. But like, I own 3 Walt's. I have a very vested interest in Walt going up. So like, I think it's much better to have the full conversation of like, hey, here's what I think based on XYZ, based on the numbers. If you want to invest, invest. If you don't want to invest, don't invest. But the problem is for a lot of people that have that influence, people will just blindly follow them. And I mean, I even have been guilty about it sometimes too. Like I own some tokens that have done absolutely nothing. Because when I first got into crypto last year, I invested, the vast majority of my money in OMI, but I was like, oh, bonfire token, like I'll buy $100 worth of that. Like Safe Moon, it's going to the moon, boys. Like, so I'm, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Safe Moon actually looked legitimate for a while because they had a cool roadmap. They had a video game that looked like they were coming out. They were burning a lot. I was like, hey, maybe there's something to, and then no, all right. As soon as that thought crossed my head. Yeah. So how many, and I'll get to super chats in a second, but how many offers have you turned down for like ads in your video to like sponsor, like whether it be something that would be like legitimate, like Terra Virtua, they just kind of got Cavell on there. They, running ads on his channel, or something that's like clearly like not a scam, but just like a copycat. Like I was covering Earth 2, so I got content about like After Earth, Next Earth, and Meta Earth and all that. How many of those have you turned down? And are you said that you've turned some of them
down? 3, 4, 5. I'm counting right now my email. Recently, at least 6. I've never taken a sponsorship. Spencer Cornelia, thank you, big guy. I've never taken a sponsorship deal from a company that's reached out to me. The only one that I kind of regret not doing, and it wasn't because it was a bad sponsorship or I thought it was going to fleece my viewers or anything like that. It was for Ridge Wallet. They reached out and they were talking about a sponsorship, and I think that would have been cool because I think Ridge Wallet's like, I mean, can't really hustle people on a wallet, right? Like I thought that would have been cool. But it was they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we're running a promotion, we can give you a free wallet and whatever. But it just didn't really, like, I didn't have the time to put a video together, and it was going to be one of those, like, and I've always been very open about this. Like, I'm not going to make a video just to make a video. Like, you guys will see, like, sometimes I'll make like 3 videos in 2 days, and then I'll go 3 weeks without posting. And the reason for that is, like, if I don't have something that I think is like valuable to you guys, like, there's enough stuff to watch on the internet that like, I'm not going to put something together if I'm not like, oh yeah, like this would help me as an investor, right? Like I could and make $20 worth of AdSense or whatever, but like, I don't care. Like it's just
Me that makes 2 videos a day.
no, but the difference is like you're not just making videos, like you're connecting with your community, which is fantastic, and it is something that I should do more. I more so do it on Twitter than I do it on YouTube. But to be fair, I also have a wife and a kid, and I work full time, so I don't.
That's a good point.
I don't also have the opportunity to go live all the time, and like now I'm looking at the amount of super chats you've gotten today, and I'm like, I should probably go live more. But but like I just look at it, and I didn't have the opportunity to do the video, and it would have been cool to do the video if someone, like hypothetically, like if Ledger reached out to me and they'd be like, hey, do you want to do a partnership with us to promote our secure wallet? We'll give you whatever. I would consider it, for the simple fact that I could confidently make that video and know that I use the Ledger myself. I bought it with my own money. I transferred my own crypto to it, and I'm holding my crypto in that wallet. So I feel like full transparency, I could back it. And I could tell anyone that was doing it, like oh, why'd you do Ledger or whatever? I'd be like, this is why. And as a perfect example, and I don't know if I'm going to say the name of the company because I'm not trying to throw them under the bus or anything. They're a bad company, but another secure wallet reached out to me on the 22nd. And they were like, hey, we make a wallet. Would you like to do a promotion for our video? And it was funny because this was the same day that I was putting out my Ledger video. And Ledger doesn't pay me. I'm not sponsored by Ledger. Yeah. And I was like, oh, like I could have done this, like maybe made $1,000 or whatever. But like, I'm like, no, like I'm not going to do that, even though I can make $1,000, because I like Ledger as a product and I'm going to use the Ledger wallet. And if it just so happens that I'm able to develop a relationship with Ledger at some point, great. And if I don't, that's okay too. But if my family comes to me and says, hey, where should I put my crypto? I'm telling them Ledger. Whereas like I'm not going to get sponsored by, Bob and Sally. And then they go, hey, should I put my crypto with Bob and Sally? Well, why am I going to get paid to promote something that I couldn't tell my own family, look them straight in the face and be like, yeah, this is what I would do. Right. So that's kind of where I stand with on that. So will more sponsorship opportunities come up? Possibly. And will I take them? It's possible. But once again, I'm never, and I can say this clearly to everyone, you guys can use this against me afterwards, after the fact. I don't care. I'm never going to sponsor something that I don't believe in and that I wouldn't use myself, because I just don't think that that's the way that I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today if I didn't have the community surrounding me that supported me through, the ups and the downs, because I haven't always made the greatest decisions. So I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for the support of everyone that's backed me. The worst thing that I could do is then start taking advantage of them in that regard and sponsor and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that. If a sponsorship deal comes up, maybe. But do you get contacted regularly? I feel like we're both around the subscriber count where like companies will reach out and be like, hey, I'll give you free stuff if you
talk about
my project.
The smaller stuff I do all the time. And it was actually better like last year when I was just covering Earth 2 and they're like, hey, I'll give you like $500 and $500 worth of tokens. And then as like the months and year went on, is like, I'm just gonna offer you tokens. I was like, what? This is like a worse deal that I got like 6 months ago. But so I've gotten like actual job offers more this last week or this last month than I have like throughout my entire life. And that was really interesting because it's most of the job. I mean, some of them advisory roles I'd be okay with doing, but these were like, hey, I want you to come be like a promoter or like an ambassador and do. And it's like, I don't. The money that I would get for something like that, if I were to sign like a year deal or whatever, isn't really worth it when OMI goes to like 3 cents, suddenly have like $3.5 million, and then like I don't really want to work for $50,000, $80,000 a year. But I have said before, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, I mentioned it on just like videos, podcasts, that I would come out of retirement for the right cause. And I think maybe by San Diego Comic-Con, I will have some merch that maybe of where I am working for. Or if definitely not by San Diego, definitely sometime in August before summer's over. But maybe by that time I can announce where I might be heading at.
You know what this feels like to me? You know when like the football players are like sitting at the podium and they got the hats in front of them and they're like, I'm proud to announce that I'm taking my talents to like, and then they pick the hat or whatever. This is what this feels like for me. I feel like, you know what, man, it couldn't happen to a better guy. You have literally been just, and you know, to spare the blah blah blah, like I know that you've been putting in work behind the scenes, like I know you have, and you've been just absolutely crushing it, and I think we owe collectively as a community a lot of gratitude and thanks to you for the amount of people that you're talking to and showing them the light and showing them what the project is. And you know, it doesn't show because like people will look and they'll be like, oh, you're the dude that got Andre Jick in and like whatever, right? And like Andre Jick public facing, like whatever. But like the people that you're onboarding maybe don't have the social following that people like Andre have, but like the amount of capital that they have just makes him look homeless. Like it's just, it's insane. And so, you know, like huge ups to you for the work that you're doing. And, you know, and I hope that, you know, if it's VV, if it's not VV, whatever, it doesn't matter. I hope that wherever you land, like, I know that you have a good heart and it comes from a good place. And so I just hope that people know that with you going into it. And, you know, it could be Earth 2, it could be VV, it could be any of the other projects. But like, for instance, like Taps, absolutely great guy, you know, took on a role that wasn't with VV, but like still puts out VV content, still super bullish on the project. Wendy, who's involved in another project, still a fantastic creator. Kyle Willson, same thing. Like Cavell Anderson doing a promo for it. Like it doesn't mean that people aren't still bullish and positive on the community and the project, but at the same time, you got to pay the bills. You got to live, right? And like for people like you and Cavell and whatever that are retired or don't have full-time jobs, like I don't know if people just think that like you can talk for 6 hours and then like, I don't know, the government gives you money or like, I don't know. Right. Like, and like, you know, so like big ups to everyone that's been supporting Randy's channel and allowing him to take advantage of these opportunities. Cause really you're investing in Randy, but you're investing in yourself too, because he's really out there like promoting to the right people to get them involved. And it's just been really cool to hear kind of some of the stories behind the scenes of people that, you know, you're speaking to and that you're really just trying to encourage to look into the project. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And, you know, I would absolutely love to take on a role in an opportunity and be more involved in the space. But like you said, I'm kind of in a similar situation. Like I have a full-time job, I got to pay the bills. So like it would have to be pretty good. Like if Ecomi had like official Coin Wizard as a title, I would 100% like be on board, like pay me an OMI, like I'm good with it, whatever. Like I'll do it. But like, man, I'm super stoked for you and like your direction. And like you've been, you know, you got the same fridge, same apartment, like living the same life, just like every penny you get's going into OMI, man.
My same mattress on the floor. I would totally offer you to come to my place to stay so you wouldn't have to pay for a hotel if I had an actual bed. Was it just like the syphilis mattress on the floor? Because I have air conditioning now, so you won't be hot.
My god. Okay, no. Now you're living the high life. You didn't tell me you had AC now. Oh no, yeah. This is unacceptable.
Pretty sure Crypto's a Taco just paid for my AC, like just from today. I just have the romance. So thank you for those kind words. I love you, brother. And I know you. I was, you know, we've gone for 2 hours, but I know that you have like all day. You have like all night. So I'm gonna keep this going.
Don't advertise that because then I really will be here all night. No, I think Jay, we might have missed Jay's super chat.
We missed a couple of super chats.
Okay, cool.
So one thing that I have that I want to ask you about is I would really want something like a Cryptkins metaverse, like inside the VVverse, like so like that, because I want Loch Ness Monster to be able to, like, you know, like a game to like terrorize people on a boat and just, you know, that they can't see you, and once they, you know, get close to them and huzzah. And I want to what's something that we have, an IP that we have or we don't have, that you want to see a metaverse that's inside the VVverse, that's part of it. Mine's Cryptkins.
Yeah, Cryptkins is a cool one because I feel like you could add a lot of elements to that. I'm just trying to think if there's even like any. I think that it would be cool to have like, and maybe this is not like a specific IP thing. Maybe this is kind of like an overarching theme, but I think it would be really cool to have elements of like Grand Theft Auto, and not like going around and pew pew, like none of that. I'm not saying that, guys, but like I just think it'd be really cool to have like an open world where you could walk around with your characters and like go into shops and businesses. Like how Grand Theft Auto, like you can go to stores, you can go to I think it'd be really cool to be able to do that in your own characters and have your characters be able to walk and have animations. Like I think it's really interesting to see, and not to say that there's any partnerships here or anything like that, but a lot of the same collectibles that we see on Veve, we also see on like places like Fortnite around the same time. And Epic Games is a pretty big company. And so it would be really interesting to see a world, and I mean, maybe they wouldn't want to do it because it would hurt Fortnite as an example, but it'd be really cool to see a world where you could actually walk around with your characters. And like maybe because right now the way that the NFTs are, they're a token, but they're not built for gamification. So maybe what would happen is you would own the NFT and that token would give you access in the Veveverse to a character that you could only unlock if you have that token. Like that token unlocks that character for you. And then the NFT itself still has value because you can only get that character if you own the NFT, but you don't need to worry about all the complications of like building the models for characters and stuff like that. And they could design the game characters like that. Because I mean, we've seen Darth Vader, Spider-Man, we've seen Spider-Man flinging around on his web in Fortnite. So like if you own the Spider-Man Secret Rare, you can get that character that does a specific animation in the Veveverse, and you can actually move around with it. You can toggle it, and then you'd have near field communication where it's open mics. So you could like walk up to someone and be like, "Hey man," and they'd be like, Randy'd be like, "Hey guys," like So like I just think that would be really cool, and I think anything like that would just absolutely explode the value of a lot of these collectibles because people will immerse themselves in that. Like I saw, and I mean, Blizzard, just whatever, but like it costs like $180,000 to max out your character in the newest Diablo. Like in the real world currency, it would cost $180,000.
What the fudge?
But people will still pay that amount of money because people are like, no, like my game identity is who I am as a person, right? So like
that's a good point.
I recently just got a tag in Rocket League that says aspiring influencer. It's completely random. And like you don't get to make the tags, right? Like they're just assigned to you randomly. And I was like, dude, that's the coolest tag ever. Like I'm gonna do that. And like my clan in Rocket League is Veve and my team name is Wen Moon. And so it's like a running joke that I have with another buddy that I play Rocket League with who's invested in OMI. And so every game that I play of Rocket League, and I maybe play on nights that I have time to play 2 to 3 hours of Rocket League, I'm advertising to every person that I play against that. So it's just like little things like that where like it becomes your social identity. Even something as simple as being able to make your profile picture on Twitter your official collectible. Things like that will be absolutely massive. Like we're really like 5% into what this project's going to be as a whole. And we're just really starting to open the curtain and get like a little sneak peek of what there is to come. But what I've always told people and with my friends that have invested, they always say like, oh, the OMI price is down. You told me that OMI was going to go higher. Why is it lower right now? I always say, I will never be worried about the price of OMI until everything that is coming for OMI is delivered and the price doesn't respond based on that. And it's the same thing with the Veve collectibles. Like, would I like my Veve collection to be more expensive right now? Of course. But once again, I won't be worried about the price of the collectibles until such a time that everything that is coming for the collectibles is here. And then if it's truly not valuable after everything's already here, okay, then maybe I need to rethink my thought process. But right now, I'd rather get into the ground floor early before we have everything than wait until everything is completely polished. And I take on the risk of that, but I also reap the benefits and the rewards of that. Whereas people like Whales, the people that Randy talks to and stuff, they don't need to get in super early. They just want to have the security that, hey, if I put these funds in, I'm gonna be able to get them out, right? And like this is actually a thing that's gonna be marketed. Like people are actually gonna use this thing. Like they would rather pay twice as much to know that, hey, this thing's still gonna be valuable, but I have that security, than to take that risk with the capital that they have. Because when you get to a certain level of wealth, it's not about wealth creation, it's about wealth preservation. So for us, people like Randy and I, we're all in on the project because we need this to do well in order to make money and create generational wealth for ourselves and our family. But people that already have $10 million, $100 million, they're not like, hey, I need to turn my 100 million into a billion. They're like, hey, how can I make sure that this 100 million is still worth 100 million in a couple years, right? So
Yeah,
it's interesting.
agreed. And speaking of OMI, we have a Ecomi Skywalker saying, "You guys think OMI will continue going up now, or is it going to retrace soon?" I mean, it's gone up what, like it went down to like 0.00105 at one point, so it has gone up like 30 something percent since then. And
It's crazy that that's 30%.
yeah,
So
although
OMI's up 8 point. God, my phone's dirty.
yeah, it's
8.63% on the day. Well, the rest of the market, I guess Bitcoin has recovered a little bit. It's up 0.6% on the day, and ETH's up 1.9% on the day. So
I don't know if you saw my my tweet from before, but 1 year ago today, OMI had 137% increase in 24 hours.
I saw that. It's crazy.
But yeah, so what do you think? Does this keep going up? Does it kind of go down a little bit? I mean, I think for it to go up this much, it should have a little bit of a retrace. If it does, great, we could buy more. If not,
I think on the balance of probabilities, we're probably going to see a retracement. There's no, at least that I'm aware of, any factors that are like imminently like, hey, tomorrow OMI to NFT is coming out and whatever. Like, there's nothing like that would be a catalyst to pump the token. Like, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but was that the announcement of Marvel that we went up 130%?
what about Marvel? Say that again.
Well, you said we went up 130% that day, June 25th. That was the day that we received the announcement about Marvel coming to the platform.
Right? Probably. I'm not sure, but
no,
yeah,
I think that was the day we went from like 13 to like 30, like
like
0.013 to like 0.003. Yeah. I don't foresee us continuing to run up. There's not enough sustained buy pressure there because there's still no reason to buy the token. And a lot of people will be like, and back to the conversation from 2 hours ago, Randy was talking to someone online and just, stop shilling the token. There's no reason to own it. Correct. There is no reason to own it, which is exactly the reason that I'm buying a bunch of it. Because when there's a time and a reason to own it, I'd rather have owned it when there wasn't a time to own it than wait until that time, because then I'm getting in much higher than what I would have had I got in before that point. So you're taking a risk, but you're also being, or you should in theory be rewarded for that. So as long as you're aware of that, then you make your own decision. So I think OMI will likely see a retracement. I know that there's still a lot of TA guys out there. I'm not a TA guy. I'm a numbers guy, but I haven't been in crypto or in stocks long enough to kind of fully immerse myself in TA. So I defer to some of the other people. You know, some of them are saying, hey, we're starting to see 0.0009. I think for that to happen as a catalyst, two major things would have to happen. One would have to be a major red flag with the actual project itself. So we would find out some piece of information that would be drastically concerning, that would lead people to believe that OMI is never going to be valuable, in which point we would see a sell-off. The second of which being a severe collapse on macroeconomics from a recession being announced in July. The CPI data comes out on July 28th. Andre Jix made a couple videos about it. If we're confirmed to be in a recession, it's possible that we could see a retracement. However, generally, most things that we see in the market are already priced in. People have the current valuations of the markets based on factors that they already believe are coming. So I believe that for the most part, the announcement of a recession is priced in, and we actually see some of the most valuable times, especially in traditional stocks, coming from bear markets. So I actually think that for me, this was a good opportunity to buy in and dollar cost average into OMI. I've picked up 4 to 5 million OMI in the last 2 months, which has led me to the number that I'm at now. And of course, if I have the opportunity, I'll continue to pick up more where I can. But yeah, is this the absolute best entry that you're ever going to get? Lowest today at, this exact time? No, probably not. You could probably wait or dollar cost average in, buy a little bit now, buy a little bit lower, if that's something that you're looking to do for yourself. But OMI long term, I think will be, and I've said it publicly and I'll say it, again, I think will be a better investment than almost any Veve collectible that exists out there, dollars for dollars. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm very excited about the value proposition of OMI and what we could see happening to it. And I think if you get in at 0.0011 or 0.0013 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 50, it really won't matter once OMI hits a couple of cents. You'll still be very happy with your decision to have done so. And so, yeah.
So we got J.A. says, shout out from Elmont. He's the dude that I met. He's been following me for a while. I met him at the Bat Cows event in
Nice.
NFT NYC. And he's just being a super bro. Actually paid for my Uber home from the city, me and my friend Justin Apple Pie. I was like, whoa, like I was showing him, like, you don't need to do this, right? And like I could just go to the trade, and he's like, but the train is gonna, you might miss it, and you're gonna have to wait a few hours.
That's nice, man.
He's a bro.
That's awesome.
But he says, off topic, what are your favorite 2 inventions of all time? I would have to say the telephone, because that's what led to the cell phone. So that'd be one of mine. And then I guess the Wright brothers, discovering flight and the airplane, because I feel like that just makes the place so much closer. So those would be my 2. What about you?
Fair enough. So Jay, for the record, absolutely nothing is ever off topic when Randy and I are speaking about anything. You'll learn that as we talk more. Is just there's
floodgates opening now.
Yeah, floodgates open. I don't know if it counts as an invention, but Thomas Edison discovering electricity and the light bulb seems like a good one. I don't know that you can count electricity as an invention because electricity already exists. It's just harnessing the electricity. Not to get super complicated, but I think that's a big one because I feel like that you don't have phones, you don't have flight, you don't have pretty much anything without electricity, right? So that's a pretty cool one. And then second favorite invention. Let's think of like a quirky one here. Let's keep it. Gosh, I don't know. There's everything's been invented. So it's like, I
don't know. I mean, you're like maple syrup. Is it something that?
But was that invented? See, now I don't even know if my electricity answer was good. I'm falling apart here on the spot. Okay, the vehicle is pretty awesome.
Okay, cars are great.
Cars are great. So I'll take that one as one, and then my second one, I don't know. Well, I'm going with electricity and cars. I'll come back to you, Jay. I'll think of something at some point. I'll just
think of something at some point. 30 minutes. The internet is probably pretty good because
true.
We have Adam Osway saying Randy's toe pick shirts confirmed. This is gonna sound so gross. I am so sorry for anyone who's about to hear us, but this is the truth. Is reminding me of it. I don't know how often you clip your toenails or not, but I every now and then I'll just be oh, need to clip them, and I do, but once in a blue moon, usually once or twice a year, I'll forget, and it'll be mostly in the winter, and I'll go running. I'm did I step on something? And then once I take off my shoes, I come back, oh, it's my toenails that got too long, and it one toenail cut another toe, and my sock is all bloody. It's just these are not the toe picks.
How do you let them get that long?
It's not that long. It's my toes are close together.
Okay.
And
you need bigger shoes, I think. Is what needs
probably.
Or you need those little things when people get manicures or pedicures, they put little foam things. You just need to separate all of your toes.
That's a good point.
People just clicked on this link and started watching right now, and they're like, "What did I just get myself into?" I came here to learn about Veve and OMI, and we're learning about Randy's bloody toes.
Okay, so yesterday, Charles Hoskinson, who is creator Cardano, yes. He had gone and said to the U.S. government, saying, "Hey, we need to have a." Did you see the tweet that he had made?
No, I haven't seen it. No, I personally, I will make a disclaimer to anyone because shout out for the donation, but I don't follow Cardano too much. I've never invested in ADA or anything like that, so I know people that have and have made substantial amounts of money in it from historically. I think that it's going to be an interesting platform, and they're looking to solve a lot of real world issues that you run into with Ethereum. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they come up with and everything, but go for your thing, Randy.
Okay. So, that Cardano side, I was just at a Cardano Xterra virtual party, the other day, with the team and Wendy and Spencer and Crypto and everyone. And, so he's proposing, to the US Congress, a software-based crypto regulation system. And I did go over this the other day, I think in a video, or this morning's video and yesterday's live stream, that I don't know too much about him or Cardano generally, but you would think that somebody that is in crypto that is proposing a software-based crypto regulation system, like if they're the one proposing the regulations, it's probably going to be pretty relaxed, or it's going to be so specific that the SEC can't interpret it any other way and wouldn't be able to try to get that with us. So that is why I'm also pretty bullish on this space in general, NFTs, because if Gary Vee, someone who said that his life's work is going to be NFTs, that's what he's working towards now. If he sees that NFTs are about to be threatened, he's going to take some of his several $100 million and he's going to lobby people in Congress. He's going to lobby wherever, say like, no, make this okay. Again, just more of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's kind of, so outside of the Cardano aspect specifically, because I know the work that they're kind of working towards on blockchain and stuff, I think the biggest threat to cryptocurrency as a whole, a lot of people would say it's the regulation because it's meant to be decentralized. But what I would say is it is not regulation that's the concern. It's uneducated regulation, because a certain amount of regulation and compliance is kind of needed everywhere. And for those of you that don't know, I come from a law enforcement background, so I'm a little bit biased on this, but you can't just have something just be a complete free-for-all, because it's been shown historically and regularly that human greed will always prevail. And people will take advantage of other people, and people will end up losing everything. And some people will say, yeah, but that's that person's problem. That's not my problem. But like, as a perfect example, looking at the exchanges that are getting locked out, like if you had your money on Celsius and you can't access your money anymore, is that because you were being greedy? Or is that just because the institution wasn't built in such a way that it could support it, right? So like, people can only go with what they know. And so, I don't think it's fair to completely blame individuals for getting ripped off or being scammed or anything like that. Like, I think a certain amount of even if it's not regulation, but something as simple as education in the space, because I think a lot of people are still not familiar with crypto and kind of the nuances and what they need to be aware of and how to protect themselves. So yeah, I definitely think a lot of regulation is going to come down the pipe, but that's also one of the reasons that I'm so bullish on Veve and Ecomi and the OMI token, is that I feel like they're so far ahead on the decisions that they're making that it's not something that you really need to be aware of. And I'll give you a perfect example. Buybacks are not happening right now for the OMI token. And a lot of people are like, well, it's because buybacks aren't going to happen. Okay, well, that's fine if you believe that. I can't really talk about that. You just don't believe that's going to happen. But for those people that believe that it is going to happen, but believe that the reason they're going to have difficulties is the regulations with the SEC and it being classified as a security, those are the things that need to be worked through. So now Ecomi's taking the time to not do buybacks to make sure that they can look into these things to make sure that they're doing it correctly. Look at what happened with XRP, who just chose to kind of do their own thing. Lost 90% of their value and got decimated for 2.5 years, fighting with the SEC, dealing with court cases, right? That's the last thing that we want to see happen to the platform and for our project. So Ecomi's going to take things to do things right to make sure that when they do implement them, that they're doing it legally compliant. One of the reasons that they need to be legally and regulatory compliant isn't just because they want to do things right as a company, but it's because of the people that they're working with. As a perfect example, some of the people that they're working with, like Disney, are not going to want to be associated with a company that's doing rug pulls or that is being classified as security and not operating correctly and is being fined. They have partnerships with the U.S. government. Is the USPS going to be partnering with Veve if they're not doing things the way that they're supposed to be, right? So there's a lot of these considerations that need to be taken into consideration when you're making these decisions. So OMI's taking the time to do things right. Now, as an example of another company that's not choosing to take the time to do things right, and not to say that it's wrong, but Illuvium, their new SLP token that they're releasing, and I don't know a ton about it, but from what I'm understanding is they're basically looking to reward holders of that are holding their land with more of that token. So basically there's concerns that it's going to be it's basically the way that they describe it, it basically sounds like a security. And what they're saying is, well, we're not based out of the US, we're based out of Australia or wherever they're based out of. So we reached out and didn't hear back from the government as to what their interpretation of this. So we're just going to do it anyways, and we think it's going to be fine. So that's the last thing that I would ever want to hear from a project that I'm invested in. And I tweeted about this a couple of weeks ago. I have nothing against Illuvium. I think it's going to do quite well, probably all things considered. But like, I don't want to invest in a project that's just like, hey, we don't really have clarification on this, but like, we're just going to do it anyway. And like, I'm sure it's going to be fine. Like, no, Veve doesn't know if it's going to be fine, so they're not going to do it until they know. And then people will sit there and they'll go, well, they're just not doing anything. They're just sitting on their hands. They don't care. It's a rug pull. But it's like, no, they're taking the time to make sure that they do things right so that when they build something, it's built correctly. Because the worst thing that you can do is build something halfway and then just run into issues. So that's kind of my take on that. I think Cardano is going to do good things in the space. They're trying to offer a competing project to Ethereum. I think Ethereum is likely always going to have a lion's share of the market cap when it comes to platforms that are building on, especially with all of the layer 2 solutions. We've seen how much funding has gone into Immutable X with all of the companies that are investing in them. I think that once we get ETH 2.0, and the gas fees are reduced and they move from proof of work to proof of stake, I think that Ethereum is going to be the major platform that's successful. And we see the first mover advantage here with Ethereum, and we're seeing it again with Veve. You don't always have to do things completely right, but if you do things first and you can get a lion's share of the market, you can be forgiven for some of the mistakes that you make along the way because you don't have any roadmap to base your successes off of. But I would still say Veve is 3 to 4 years ahead of any other project in the space. I know some people will compare it to projects like Recur, which in their own right are doing just fine. But once again, in the last 3 months, Recur has dropped, Star Trek, which 80% of the regular drop didn't sell out. And now they're dropping Nickelodeon, which I think is cool as well. I know I might check it out, but the hype surrounding it is not there. Whereas you could not say the same about a project like Veve. There's just so much more that they have going for it. And I think it will be a marketplace that everyone will find a reason to come to, and not just because you're in love with one specific fandom. So,
yeah, that's why I think it's really smart of Terra to go after one of the biggest Veve YouTubers like Cavell and say like, hey, Cavell has a lot of people subscribe to him. He's very, very good at getting people to view his videos and his tweets and his spaces. So them going on, having a 30-second ad on his videos are very good because they know that the Veve community has that money. They got that cheddar, and they'll spend. So
100%. I think it was a very smart move for them to tap into Cavell's audience. He's got obviously one of the biggest followings in the community, and I think it makes sense for Cavell to take it up as an opportunity as well. Like, his main source of revenue is making content. So if he deserves to be paid. I mean, he puts out 4 videos a day. The guy deserves to get paid for the work that he's doing. I don't know in terms of conversion how much more that is going to make people like. I think if you're in Veve and a content creator's talking about another project, you may but like, I'll give you a perfect example. I bought Backhells because I'm like, hey, cool. Like, I'll buy some Backhells. Like, a lot of the other content creators are checking it out, and I'll check it out. That's fine. Backhells is my least viewed video on my channel in the last 3 months. Gotcha. Right? Because the second you're talking about something that's not to do with someone's investment, people just don't care and they tune you out. So not to say that Virtua is not going to do well. I'm sure they'll do well, and I haven't looked at the metrics and I could be wrong, but I just feel like people are I think people recognize hey, Cavell is getting paid to do this. Like, whatever, either fast forward or let him do his thing and then move on to what I'm actually here to hear about. And I'll be honest, as a content creator, I do the exact same thing with other people's YouTube videos that I'm watching. They have a sponsorship for whatever in the thing. I just fast forward the 30 seconds of the thing and then continue to watch the video that I'm there for. And that's me being honest as a content creator, right? Like, it's just the way life works. And so you recognize it's the way people make money and yeah.
I hate that when I'm driving and I'm like, and it's like highway driving. You're not at a light. You can't check your phone. And you just see you just hear this ad for the postal stamps or NordVPN and it's not even that the ads come in the video. It's the content creators get NordVPN, get these meals, for 3 months. And it's like a 3-minute ad. Like, my God, man, it's torture.
Yeah, and then you got to hear about Raid Shadow Legends for the 50th time, and it's like, okay, yeah, haven't downloaded it yet, still not going to download it.
Oh, dude, there's one guy, Long Beach Griffey, that has this Manscaped commercial, and he just did a whole video on Manscaped, and it's about and he plays both characters, but it's about a dad and son talking about shaving, and it's like, okay, now that we shave this, let's shave the rest of you. And he gets all creepy with it.
You know what? Manscaped is a sponsorship I think I would take because I definitely need it. And that one would actually be an interesting one because I don't own the lawnmower.
Oh, dude, I get weird with that.
Manscaped, if you're watching.
Yeah,
Hit me up.
reach out to us,
Reach
dude.
out to us.
We should both get partnerships, and then when we're in New York, we should shave each other. Like I'll shave your arms,
Whoa.
and you shave like
Okay.
not like
Okay.
okay maybe
Okay.
yeah okay.
Randy's
So
proposing the reach around, guys. Save me. Save me. Blink twice. Blink twice.
next super chat. Moving on from that, someone's gonna clip that. It's gonna be. At first, it was me and Taps Bromance. Now it's gonna be me and you shaving each other.
Yeah. Oh, God.
If you could have any 3 different NFTs, including comics, must hodl and then sell in 3 years, what would they be? Secret Rare Spider-Man, Walt, and then the Marvel Comics #1. Those are probably going to be mine.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. He said including comics. So I know that this isn't a popular opinion, but I would break down comics versus NFTs. I know a lot of people when they're creating their lists, like I'll create a list and I'll be like, these are the top 5 collectibles I think are valuable. And they're like, you didn't include Marvel Comics #1, man. And I'm like, because Marvel Comics #1 isn't a collectible, it's a comic. Like it's differentiated on the app. Like I'm going to differentiate it on my list, right? So
Yeah.
if I had to say top 3 comics, it would probably be Hit Monkey. No, I'm just kidding. Marvel Comics #1, Fantastic Four #1, and then there's arguments for a couple. Fantastic Four #5 does well. Amazing Spider-Man #1 does well. Once again, I own one of those guys. And there's 1 or 2 other ones, but once again, I'm not a comic expert. So, if Sleeping Comics or Comics and Crypto comes out with something, I would probably defer to them a lot more than I would, rely on myself on that one. So, but then when it comes to collectibles, this is highly debated, but I would say I'm not putting them in order of 1 and 2. It's just, hey, there's 3 collectibles in the list. Spider-Man Secret Rare would be one of them. Walt would be the second one. And then the third one is debatable. I think that it's somewhere between Rizzo, Todd, Ultra Rare Vader, R2 on the outside chance. No, not even R2. One of those 3 maybe. I own all 3 of them. Once again, disclaimer, but I think it's got to be one of those 3. I don't know. What do you think for just the collectibles? For the third one, I feel like we both probably agree Walt and Spider-Man would be on that list, or no? You don't feel that way?
Walt Spider-Man would probably be some of the top 2.
Yeah.
For Secret Rare, but then, Riso, I really enjoy Riso, and not because it's I think one of the most jacked and like awesome Batman, although that's part of it.
Yeah,
but it's the first error that we have because it's first edition and it's not, and it shouldn't be, but they're keeping it. So you have the first ever error on there. You have the first ultra rare. It's just that first set deal. So that's probably a good part of it. Just that historical fact that it's not animated like Vader is, but it's got a couple of layers. So I would probably say Eddie Riso.
I was able to get a Riso like a month or 2 ago. I was really excited about that, and I got really lucky. There was like a 140x mint. I don't remember my exact mint number, but listed on the floor at the time. And I was really excited about that. So I was able to move some funds around and get that. So I've completed the first Batman Black and White set, which is also the first set to ever be released on Veve. And I do think that long term, that set could do quite well. I think 750 editions for the ultra rare. And it is owned, the Riso's owned by
everyone. And I think
there's a lot of whales that own that one, and there's a lot of people that own like 20 or 30 of them that are fully content with hodling. So I don't see that one being available at a low. I mean, I think last bull run it went up to 25, I think.
Yeah, so this is going to sound outlandish, it's going to sound crazy, but I think that first set goes for like multiple 6 figures at some point, just because everyone's going to want that first set. And less than 1,600 people can get it. Maybe 1,500 people, just because that you need the Riso for that. And Walt's, or let's say a Todd. Todd right now is what, like 2 ETH, maybe 2.5 ETH for a Todd, because it's about 3K, and ETH is like what, 1,200.
Yeah, ETH's like 12. Yeah, it's like 2.
Or it might even be 4K. I think he touched 4K.
Yep.
Whatever he is, I fully suspect that if Cathie Wood is, let's say Cathie Wood is off by 50% or 100%, and she's off, and Ethereum doesn't have a $20 trillion market cap and only has a $10 trillion market cap by 2030, and suddenly Ethereum, one ETH is worth like $10,000. I'm sorry. One ETH is worth, I don't know how much that would be worth. So the market cap is right now, I don't know, like we're going to be worth like 20 ETH. And if 20 ETH is worth like so much money, this could be like $1 million for the set. Like I think there's a lot of people that will get in. That's going to be like first edition base set Pokemon cards at some point. Not because it's Batman, although partly, but just because it's that first collectibles things on the app.
No, you know what? You raise a great point with that, and once again, it comes to the fishbowl, and it comes to being stuck inside and not being able to see. It's just we talk about some of these valuations sometimes, and it just absolutely boggles my mind that we're fortunate enough to be in this situation. And if any of you are watching right now and you're fortunate enough, or even if you're not, just to be along for the journey and the ride, it's really incredible to think about some of the prices that these could go to. And I mean, some of the most valuable NFTs that exist in the world right now were minted for free back in 2017. So it really doesn't take a long time for something to just completely just change the world and become super expensive and valuable. So yeah, I mean, I guess it really comes down to, and I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier today off stream, but when is the right time to sell? And we ran the numbers a little bit earlier, and I gave some numbers for people. But like, what do you? I know you're in a little bit of a different place. You're more OMI heavy, and you got a couple Grails. But like, when do you make that transition? When do you sell? Is there a time you would ever sell? Is there something that you'd never sell, no matter the price that it gets to? Like, what do you think?
With the end goal being animal conservation, if OMI still stays down here and Walt goes to not even to all-time high, if it goes to 30K, 40K, well, I know that Walt can minimum 3x from there in the future, because I think it would be well over 100K. But I also think that, if OMI's still down there, I get that. And my goal is to still have 100 million OMI by the time 2030 hits, where I see this probably multiple dollars. But, at that point, it'd be like, okay, I don't think at that point, let's say if I have 100 something million, I don't think I would try to get $1 billion. I think at that point, like, hey, I've already won, and let me just start slowly but surely selling and getting this land for animal charity, and then go from there. But I will sell, if I have 132.5 now, and I will buy San Diego Comic-Con, probably get a little bit more, depending on what happens with that potential job offer, depending on what happens with some things happening in the background, which I'll talk to you off camera about, how low it dips. Yeah, I'll sell a little on the way up. Just a couple million each year is,
just a couple mil, man. Just a couple mil.
Yeah, just sell a couple million each year.
Just a couple mil, man. It's cool. No, you know what? I completely agree. And that's one of the things that I'm most bullish about with the project and the value proposition is like any of the whales. I don't know if it's a correct term, but I don't really know what else to refer to them as. People that have lots of OMI. None of them have any interest in selling anytime soon. And it's not because the project's down and because they can't sell. I'm talking about people that are still up like 10,000% of when they got OMI, and they're like, no, like, I'm good. I'm going to keep holding it. Like, I had a guy on my channel, one of the first videos that I did last year, and he invested, I'm not going to say, because I don't remember if he says on the video, but he didn't invest a lot of money. And at the all-time high, he was at like $3.5 million and didn't sell any of it, because he's like, no, like, this is still early for where this is going. And like, that really put things into perspective for me. And this is someone that's been in since 2018. Like, you've had this conviction since 2018. People like Puddin Cheeks, who have been in forever, that has conviction in the project. People like Brock McBlockchain, who's been in forever, that has conviction in the project. Like, that's really the people that you need to look to. Like, are they hiding? Do they, whatever? Like, the fact that people like Brock and Puddin, like, they're buying more OMI right now. Like, it's not like they're like, hey, how can I get out of this? They're like, wow, this is still such a good price. I need to buy more. Like, what does that not tell you looking at it from the outside looking in? And like, that to me, at least for myself, tells me like, hey, I don't have enough OMI and I need to buy more, because I have all this conviction and belief in the project. The fundamentals haven't changed. I still believe that everything that is coming will be coming. So if I believed in it at 0.006 and 0.007, why wouldn't I believe in it at 0.001? All that it is a 6 times better entry for me. That's really all that it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we will run into a little issues on the run up, for the sole fact that so many people have had such a long time to accumulate at these prices. I think we get hung up around 0.003, 0.004 as people take some profits, because that's still a 3 to 4x in the prices that we're at currently. But I think long term, it's going to be, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So there is some math that I just did real quick. If you take the market cap of ETH right now at 148 billion, and you multiply it by 69, everyone comment nice down below for the 69.
Nice.
By 2030, that gets you to 10.2 trillion. So it is almost 10 trillion off of where Cathie Wood thinks that Ethereum will be at. And she is technically pretty conservative. So that's 69 multiplied by 69. And if Todd is worth 2.5 ETH right now, and 1 ETH is what, $1,200?
Yeah, roughly. I think 1241.
Okay, so let's just, all right, 1241, be super precise, multiply by 69, that's $85.6 thousand per ETH. You multiply that by 2.5, that is $214,000 just for one Todd, if that keeps up with it. Now, is that going to keep up with it? Probably not for one Todd. I mean, but I don't know. Who knows?
And this is the other thing that people need to remember. And someone posted about this in the comments earlier too, way up like an hour ago. So don't go looking. But they said there's 54 million millionaires in the world that are documented currently. So there are 4,300 Waltz. There are, because like here's the thing. There's 1,000 SpiderMans. People will always make the argument for Bitcoin, the value proposition of Bitcoin. And I was going to put a tweet out about this earlier today, but I was like, the BTC maxis are going to rip me apart. But Whale Guru or Whale Watcher put out a tweet and retweeted the Binance CEO that basically said, the biggest value for Bitcoin is that there's a limited supply of it. Was the biggest value position for Bitcoin. And it's true. It's a store value. There's a maximum of 21 million that will ever exist. And Bitcoin's biggest value proposition is that only 21 million of them ever exist. So that's fine. And people invest in it as such. But then you look at the OMI token. Well, right now, its biggest value proposition is that only 312 billion will ever exist in the circulating supply. Okay, well, there's only 54 million millionaires. Not a great value proposition. But then you think about all the utility that's going to be added that Bitcoin tries to add and solve, but can't really. Like, they're coming up with the Lightning Network. Yeah, they're coming up with things, but like, I'm not going to go spend a Bitcoin, obviously not a full Bitcoin, but a percentage of a Bitcoin on a coffee, as an example. Like, it's just not a practical use for a Bitcoin. Tesla accepted it as payment, and I think they got 3 orders because it wasn't a practical use. Why are you going to invest in a deflationary asset, or why are you going to use a deflationary asset to invest in something that's going to depreciate in value? It just makes no sense. It's not logical. So, but you look at the OMI token, I'm not saying you need to invest in it. That's not the reason to hold the OMI token. The reason to hold the OMI token is that everyone else is going to be using it as a means of transaction to use the Veve app. So if you believe in the Veve app and the value proposition of the collectibles, then whether you understand OMI or not, you believe in OMI, because in order for OMI to be successful, Veve needs to be successful. There is no OMI without Veve, but with Veve, OMI will thrive. So I look at that and I go, okay, 312 billion right now, but it's deflationary. So if the biggest value proposition of the biggest cryptocurrency that currently exists in the world is that it has a finite supply, then how is the biggest value proposition for the OMI token not that it's a finite supply, it is deflationary, which Bitcoin is not. It has utility in the form of games that exist and being able to use it in the platform with OMI to NFT, which is coming, with OMI to Gem, which is coming, with third-party token integrations on other platforms. Like, I can go on with this list all day. OMI to land, OMI to non-specific IP in the Veveverse. You start to add all of these things in and realize that it's going to be deflationary. And
I need more.
But it's like I need more, and I don't own enough of it, and enough will never be enough because that's the value proposition of it. So we look at ETH. Can ETH hit a $10 trillion market cap by 2030? I have absolutely no idea. I got into crypto last year, and the only thing that I understand fully and totally is the OMI token. So I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with Bitcoin. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with Ethereum, but I understand that bear market or not, recession or not, global conflict or not, I can still show a friend the Veve app and go, hey, you should buy this. And they can go, yeah, I agree with you. I think that that's cool and I'm going to buy it. And I know that every single transaction that takes place when that happens is burning the OMI token. And that for me is enough to go, hey, I need to own more of the OMI token. And if, Ethereum hits a $10 trillion market cap, there's absolutely no reason why OMI can't hit. And some people throw around, and I don't want to call them crazy numbers because Cavell and I get into it sometimes about different things. I respect Cavell as a content creator, but sometimes they'll be like, oh, we can hit a $3 trillion market cap. I think Randy's even said it publicly once or twice. Like, I think that it's not that it's unrealistic, but it's unnecessary. You don't need to think about something hitting that when you realize that we're at a tenth of a penny right now, and that Veve's market cap or Ecomi's market cap is about $300 million. During the last bull run, which took place last year in 2021, Dogecoin hit an $89 billion market cap at its peak. So if a token like Dogecoin, which once again has no use case, is not finite, it's actually infinite, continues to be minted, and is just really being held on social sentiment and hype, there is no reason that, as an example, OMI couldn't hit a $30 billion market cap during the next bull run. And what that would mean is a 100x in market cap price from the current value, not accounting for the deflationary tokenomics. So if we 100x from 30 billion, we would be at 10 cents, which is a 100x. And for anyone that tells me
not that much,
well, and to be clear, 30 billion is 1/100th of 3 trillion.
Yeah.
So, like people are always, oh, we'll hit a $1 trillion market cap, we'll hit a $3 trillion market cap. I'm like, that's cool, but we don't.
But it doesn't need to.
We can still 100x based on current prices, and that doesn't account for the deflationary tokenomics. It doesn't account for all of the other mechanisms that exist, and it just gets me so excited to think about that. I'm like, how could you not want OMI right now? Like, it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of other projects are like, guys, it's okay. We know we're down right now, but like, community stay strong. Like, we're good. And I'm just like, I don't really care what you do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as long as the Veve app is going to be used, like, I'm cool. Don't buy OMI. Yeah. Doesn't make a difference to me. So,
agreed. Same here. So I do have 2 more super chats to get to, and then me and Foster will probably call it a day. Go to the taco says, Foster Hilt, can you explain Web 3.0 as opposed to Web 2.0? What are your thoughts on that? Web 2.0 being obviously Facebook, MySpace, all the websites versus 3.0 metaverse stuff.
So the best way that I've essentially seen it explained is someone like Gary Vaynerchuk explaining it is Web 3.0. So Web 2.0 is using someone else's platform, content, website, or whatever. So you are a user of said item. Web 3.0 is ownership of that asset, that file, that area, or whatever. So Web 3.0 is just essentially the next iteration of digital ownership. So Web 1.0, the original thing was like, hey, I can send an email. So you're using someone else's service for whatever. Web 2.0 is starting to partake in that service with other people in real time. Like Randy said, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those types of things. Web 3.0 is, I own this collectible. I have this identity. This is who I am on the internet. And this is how I define who I am to the rest of the world. So Web 3.0 will be intertwined with 2.0 in the sense that, like, hey, I'll still use Twitter, but I will have my verified profile picture, and I own that verified profile picture, and I can prove that on the blockchain. That's 3.0 intersecting with 2.0. And as these projects work together to start to intersect together, you'll still see their own individual identities with 3.0 versus 2.0, but you will see at the same time the evolution, which will be the metaverse, and it will be all of these different things, VR goggles and all these things where people are going to be able to interact with their own social identities in their own area, and you'll be able to prove that you own it. Everyone will be able to see it. It's transparent, it's immutable, and that's essentially, in my view anyways, what Web3 is. But to me, Veve is more Web2 than it is Web3, at least right now. Once the collectibles become interoperable, once more of the information is viewable on the blockchain, once it's not so much of a walled garden, will be more of a Web3 aspect. Right now, I think a lot of people would agree it's more of like a 2.5, which I think in order to be successful, at least right now, is what needs to happen. You need to get the licensors comfortable with the concept of Web3 so that they fully understand it. You can onboard and educate them. You can get the general society comfortable, because you say the word NFT and a lot of people go, oh, that's a scam thing. So I think using digital collectibles, getting through all this, it's going to be an interesting transition, but Web3 is definitely going to be a culmination of everything that we've seen thus far, and a lot more.
Agreed, 100%. Tim Agency asks, Foster, what are you drinking? And Randy, have some pizza on me. Okay, sounds good.
There you go. So interesting fact about me, I actually don't drink alcohol. I don't talk about it very often, but I just...
What are you drinking in your cup?
Oh, in my cup right now, water. But what I will be drinking when I meet up with everyone is chocolate milk. Because I'm actually like 13 years old, and I'm just trapped in a big kid body, and so...
I was at breakfast with Jeremiah Aoyang, Wendy, and some other person, and the waiter's like, "Can I get you anything else?" I was like, "Oh, can I get chocolate milk, please?" Because it was early morning. I didn't want to. Yeah. I didn't want to have a Long Island at 7:30 in the morning and have Jeremiah Aoyang be like, "Bro, it's 7:30. Why do I listen to you?" So I was like, "All right, I'll get the chocolate milk, and that'll be it." So everyone, that is it for me today. Everyone, comment, like, and subscribe. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi, and thank you, Foster Hilt. For this, I will totally come on your channel twice to make up for the super chats that came on here, and we'll get that for you. That was cute from you, Randy. Oh, wait, thank you. So everyone, I love you all. I'll take you all later. Goodbye. Meow, 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 meow. I think it was over 400. Okay, we're ending the broadcast. Goodbye.